The Like a Dragon Yakuza Prime show is complete, and most people by now had a lot of time to sit down and watch at least some of it. We have a total of 6 episodes that go through a differently shaped telling of the story of Yakuza 1, and as you would have with live action adaptations, there's always uncertainty regarding the idea of taking a story from a video game and attempting to translate it to a TV series format. Are they going to do it justice? Or are they going to implement unnecessary filling and sprinkle unfamiliar spices here and there? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 9th episode of the RGG Cast, where we talk about everything related to the Yakuza or the Like a Dragon games. Today's episode, however, won't really be about a game. We'll be talking in as much detail as we can muster about the recently released live-action adaptation of Yakuza 1, and whether or not it holds up. I think everyone in this room can agree, but there is a lot to say about the show. Like, honestly, even trying to plan out the structure of this video is something of a challenge just because there is so much to say, and I'm sort of dreading how long this video may get. But anyway, setting that aside, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's break the ice by asking the gentlemen here what they think of the show in 5 words or less. Let's start with you, Snowiest.
I liked it. So, yeah.
Nice.
Perfect.
What about you, Gokudoni?
Mixed, but leaning towards positive.
All right. And Froob?
Okay, but pretty flawed.
Yeah, and if I had to say, has potential, not bad. Well, no. It's not bad. It's sort of bad, but it's also like, okay, it has potential. 3 words. There we go. But yeah, we'll see why it has potential and why it didn't really live up to what it could have been. Before going into the show, you know, like the months leading up to the live-action adaptation actually happening, what did each of you expect to get out of the show? Let's start with Froob.
Literally nothing. Like, with everything they were saying beforehand, and like, I had a lot of people coming into my chat and being all like, this is gonna suck absolute ass. I just kept saying over and over, listen, just go in with like 0 expectations, and you might be able to get something out of it.
Mhm.
And I think that's the reason why I didn't dislike it as much as I probably would have. If I had expectations that it was going to be, quite similar to like Yakuza 1,
Mhm.
I think I would have been pretty goddamn disappointed. So I had 0 expectations.
Right. And what about you, Gokudoni?
Well, I already had previous experience with some of the J-drama adaptations, most notably Kurohyo, so technically I already knew what I was gonna get myself into, because even that adaptation had a lot of deviations from the source material, which
Yeah.
in a sense was actually a good thing, because we didn't see that much of those specific characters. But going back to this one in particular, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around it, because I only really watched each episode once through at this point, so I'm still kind of making sense of everything that happened. But I knew that, let's say, even if they were gonna play it a bit more straight-laced, there was no way that it was going to be a one-for-one adaptation, nor would we need a one-for-one adaptation, even for a series that's as cinematically driven as this one. Because how many adaptations of the first story did we already have? Between the Takashi Miike one and the stage play and the
If you
I
want to
believe
count
there
the
was
prologue, kinda.
technically that one as well. Also the expansions in Kiwami and RGG Online and
Mhm.
even the digital comic. There was no point in doing a one for one, because you can literally play the game. Kiwami isn't that long to the point where you would need that type of expansion. And plus, what would make a good video game story wouldn't necessarily translate into what makes a good J drama to begin with.
Mhm.
So I feel like because of all of that, I was never going to be disappointed by it anyway. But the thing that they presented make me wish that they had a bit more time to flesh out some of the concepts. So yeah.
Yeah. I just love some of the memes that spawned out of this. I've seen people saying, what was it again? People memeing on like whoever wanted like a super faithful one-to-one adaptation. Like me on my way to watch the Yakuza Kiwami cutscenes on YouTube.
That's exactly.
But yeah, what were your expectations going in, Snowiest?
When they first announced it and it was like, retelling of the first game story, I thought the exact same thing of like, oh, again, really? But thankfully it wasn't. And I still think, because in the end, the show ended up basically like telling the same sort of story, which is obviously with a bunch of different changes. But I was like watching it and going, I wonder what they'll change, and actually finding that interesting. But even if I didn't know the original story or whatever, I was still just like, oh, I wonder what happens next and all that sort of stuff. Because I thought if it was going to be a one-to-one recreation, I already know everything that's going to happen. I'm just going to be like, okay, yep. And then in the next episode, they go fight Laka Long or some shit,
Mhm.
and they didn't do that. So I was glad in the end.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, even if like there might be a change that was worse or a change that was better, at least I wasn't just sitting there going, okay, and then this happens, and then it happened. You know?
yeah, I get what you
Exactly.
mean. As for myself, like whenever I go into anything new, I always like Froob. I just keep my expectations at 0. I'm like, okay, this might suck. This might be a banger. We'll see what happens. And because of that, I think I also got some form of enjoyment out of it. Like it wasn't like, oh, a 10 out of 10, but I do think there was some good in the adaptation. Now, could it be better? Absolutely. And we'll talk about how it could be better later on. But yeah, I think the show is about what I expected it to be. It was sort of like, how do I say? What's the correct phrase for it? Like a B flick kind of action movie. It's very like similar to other crime dramas, and yeah, like I don't feel like it really brought anything new, even like as a show that would probably try to appeal to newcomers. But yeah, we'll talk about like the whole appeal to newcomers thing as well at a later point. But for the time being, I guess sort of already mentioned this a little bit, but when it comes to live action adaptations, and not just with this show, what are your guys' stances on like one-to-one versus original story? Do you think both could work, or do you think only one could work, and why do you think so? Let's start with you, Snowiest.
Well, when it comes to like one-to-one, like I was saying before, like you know what's going to happen, so it's not really going to be interesting. But that's why I like there are some things out there that are basically just like the exact same story, but they add in some little extra things or something here and there to spice things up. But at the end of the day, like most of the time, it's really just you got to get the core of whatever makes the thing, right?
Mhm.
I mean, with something like the Halo show, the core of it is like something like Master Chief keeping his helmet on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And fortunately, this show, I know people are gonna say I'm wrong, but it didn't do anything exactly like that. Like Kiri didn't end up being a murderer or something like that.
True. Yep.
But yeah, I think there's place for both,
Mhm.
and it really like depends on how it's done
Mhm.
as to the quality of like if it's going to be exactly like the original thing or something completely different.
Uh-huh.
It just depends.
Yeah. Fair enough. What about you, Gokudoni?
To me, it largely depends on what it is trying to adapt. Because again, if it's let's say something like The Last of Us, something that is very, very narrative driven to the point where
Mhm.
you will likely not replay the game immediately afterwards because you'll be like, oh, I know everything that happens. I'm not that into the gameplay to re experience it and so on. If it's something that's that dependent on its narrative, I frankly don't see a point in a one-to-one adaptation.
Mm.
But let's say a series that has a very particular story, but maybe it takes second place to the gameplay aspects, or maybe it feels a bit rough around the edges because of a rough development cycle.
Mhm.
Having an adaptation that would actually try to fill in the blanks. So not let's just say a one-to-one, but with the addendum of actually expanding on things in the way that the original writers would have wanted but didn't have the time. So having a more collaborative effort between a series writer and then let's say the original video game writer.
So
That would actually
basically,
be,
kind of like
yeah,
RE1 remake if that was a show.
essentially, yes. That
Or
that
kind
would
of like
basically
what
be the
Kiwami One
perfect.
did.
Yeah.
Also, yeah. But actually trying to make it make sense within the confines of a different medium. But yeah,
Mhm.
essentially that.
Right. And what's your stance on like the one-to-one versus original story, Frup?
Yeah, I think that both can work. I think it depends on what story the adaptation is trying to tell. Like, I think we've seen with The Last of Us, where obviously something like where the original creator is very involved, sticks quite close to obviously like what has been like done in the games, but expands upon it. And
Mhm.
then something like Fallout, where it takes the world building of what the games did and then uses that as its crux, rather than going, oh hey, we're going to adapt like the story of like say Fallout 1 and 2 or 3 or
Mm.
4,
Hmm.
and just does its own thing while still like staying within the rules set in the universe already. So
Yeah.
it's something that is like brand new, but also like pays homage to what obviously it came from.
Hmm.
I feel like this was somewhere in the middle. Like, I was actually kind of surprised with episode 5 how close things got to what the original games were like, or what the
Yeah.
original game was like.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, no, I think both can work. It depends on what they're going for.
Yeah. If I had to add to that as well, I feel like if Fallout tried to adapt an existing story, that could have gone so wrong. Um, just the idea of like, whenever a live action adaptation tries to adapt an existing story, I feel like there's always a big, big, big risk because it's so easy to screw that up. And with Fallout, they did take a lot of like creative liberties, and pretty much the whole cast is new. Even though I heard that the Fallout show does have some like conflicts with the lore, I don't think they're major enough for someone like me, for example, to really care much about that. Like, plot holes in a franchise happen all the time. Whatever franchise you think of, Resident Evil, like, I don't know, Tekken, like almost literally anything. And because of that, I don't really mind them so much, unless like it's something major that you would think would have to be explained, and they never touch upon it. But yeah, I thought the Fallout show was great as well. For those who didn't watch it, it's like a pretty much completely original story. One of the guys said, they keep the core of the franchise, the how do I say, like the atmosphere and the world building of what made the game special is there, and it works really well. It's really a good show. So if you haven't watched it, I do recommend it. I also need to watch it again. I know I say that like every other video, but holy shit, man, I love it so much. uh, right. Well, there's also the topic of this is like a heated topic even, but there is this thing about, oh, the actors didn't play the games. This is going to be a crap show. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that also true for Fallout, where they didn't play the games?
Yeah, but I don't know where this all started from, because wasn't there also an interview with definitely with Kento Kaku and Kiryu's actor there, and Kiryu's actor said he actually has seen the games because his dad was playing them, so he does
Oh,
know
right.
of the games. I feel like that was a thing. I don't know where the actors didn't play the games came into it. I'm sure like most of the actors didn't play them.
I think
Like,
they took a quote from the director saying he didn't want the cast to play the games, and then they were like, "Oh, okay, like we see how this is going."
yeah, fair.
But
It wasn't necessarily that he forced people not to play it, but I feel like anyone who hadn't played it up until that point, he was like, okay, maybe it would be better for you not to go through it. I think it was particularly pertaining to the actor who played Nishiki. Because
Mm.
admittedly, between stuff like, the Demon of Shinjuku subplot, it would be kind of weird for him to be like, oh yeah, I played Yakuza Q. Oh, what the hell is this? Why are we
Yeah.
acting like his judgment all of a
Yeah.
sudden? Basically that.
the internet, as they do, they will just take something and blow it out of proportion. Happens all the goddamn time. Like, okay, maybe this is a bit of a tangent that is not related, but just the way that there's no nuance in discussions and people have to take one extreme or the other. It's like, come on, dude. Like, we can all talk about this like, normal people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I said I like it, that actually means it's like a personal attack on anyone who doesn't like it, by the
I
way.
know.
Just to let you guys know, of course.
Like, you either hate it or you're like, oh my god, the best show ever. Nothing's gonna be like it.
There's apparently no such thing as just being like, yeah, I was entertained. Anyway, I'm moving on.
Yeah?
Yeah,
No.
in kind of the same fashion, I've actually been staying away from the internet and how people mostly think about it.
Good.
Outside of like, outside of my own community, which very skewed towards the negative for
Mhm.
obvious reasons.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
I
wish
just-
it was- go anyone.
I was gonna say the thing that's just been annoying me with all of the people just spreading all the hate around is it's like, if you're gonna be a hater, can they at least hate on the actual like bad things in the show? Because I've seen so many people just be wrong. They're just like, oh, I hated this specific aspect, which is different from this thing from the games. And I'm like, no, it's not actually. That's not. No, stop.
Yeah.
You see them actually being like, they will be so hypocritical towards it, where it's like, wait, have you played the game? Because it was almost a 1-for-1 as far as that particular thing you're criticizing.
Yeah.
But then to extend on that, it's like, okay, if you're someone who's being negative towards it, it feels like, well, some of them have been extreme enough to the point where they would say anyone who likes this is a shill. But then
Yeah.
alternatively, anyone who is even remotely positive towards the series, they'll be like, no, this is toxic positivity. You're trying to say that everyone should like it. Dude, you
Yeah.
can look at something and enjoy it or not enjoy it.
I've
That's
also
the end of
seen
that.
like passive aggressiveness where it's like, oh, how could anyone like this? Like,
Yeah,
I don't see anybody like reasonably liking this, and that kind of thing. It's like, dude, you do realize there can be like just nuance and like in betweens when we talk about things, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, I either love it or I hate it. There could be things that are good about it genuinely, and there are things that are also bad about it. Like, it goes for pretty much everything you can think of.
Definitely things about this that I didn't like, and very, very much.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think that goes for all of us.
Same.
As most of you already know, the story of the live-action adaptation is drastically different from the game. In my notes, I wrote from the show. I don't know what I was smoking, but yeah. So the story is vastly different in the show, and it's basically what you would call like an alternate reality take on the story of Yakuza 1. Now, I think we basically did say what we think of this, but what do you think of like the idea of having a piece of media or a sequel or an existing story, but you would take it and you would do something completely different with it? Let's start with you, Snowiest.
I've said this quite a lot on streams. I really don't at all like Yakuza 1's story. So them changing things, a lot of the time it's like, oh, good, or I don't care if that's different or something like that.
Mhm.
But because of how much it does end up changing, even stuff like sort of the backstory to Majima and then like Sajima being in the show and all that sort of stuff, it changes more than just Yakuza 1's story. Because again, it is like its own thing. Something I will say is that it's like it made some sort of time, because it made a lot of like timeline changes. That's a big thing, but it made some that is just like, I just wish the original game did this. I genuinely don't care, and we can talk about it later if we're going to talk more like spoilery things. But big thing, massive thing, no Jingu, so it's like a 50 out of 10, I reckon.
All right, fair enough. I was gonna say, when you were talking about how nobody really talks about what's good or bad in the show, the story of Yakuza 1, it's not perfect. Maybe some of us really love it and adore it, like myself. I really do appreciate the story of 1, and I like a lot of things about it. But at the same time, I can also, acknowledge that it definitely does have some faults. And, just as it does have faults, I think the show does have some merit to it. I was gonna say, like, not everyone does this, of course, but when I see people talk about how the show did some things, it's like, okay, there are some good things to appreciate. Like, for example, like, I know this is a bit early for, the character talk, but Yumi is pretty good in the show. Like, compared to to Yakuza 1, where she barely existed. That's something.
Yeah, she's finally a character.
Yeah, that's something to like about the show. I really liked her in the show. Right, what do you think on the like alternate reality kind of take on existing stories, Froob?
I think it depends on the actual storylines. It makes sense in context of the show, but it does borrow quite a bit from Yakuza 0 with like obviously the empty lot stuff. And obviously that plays out a bit differently, which in a weird kind of way, I wish that kind of gave a little more emphasis on the Millennium Tower, because it feels like if you're just watching the show, it just kind of feels like, oh, they're making a tower. What are they really making it for? Like, there's no real like definition of like, hey, this is going to be a big project for the Yakuza. We're going to get a lot of money for it. It's going to make us like a big force, etc., etc. I think that some scenes or some like storyline bits taken over just don't translate as well because they just don't have enough time committed to them. And then some things are like,
Yeah.
I'm very surprised at how like chapter 5 was like surprisingly faithful to like actually Yakuza 1. Like obviously we get we finally get the whole like Nishiki's sister Miho aspect of what's going on and the betrayal, blah blah blah, which is played off very, very, very similarly to obviously how it happens in the game. And just no. Also, is episode 5 actually longer than the other episodes? By the way, I don't know if I was just imagining that.
No, I think it is. I think it is. Like even the
an
final
hour. Yeah, like compared to the others that were 40 minutes. Like I was watching that, I was like, wow, this has been going for a while.
Yeah.
I think it's like 50 something minutes compared to maybe 45 average for the other ones.
I'm pretty sure the final one was like 42 minutes and the fifth one was like 52.
Yeah. I went off track a bit, but yeah, that's my.
No, don't worry about it. What about you, Gokudoni? What do you think on making like an alternate reality kind of take on an existing story?
Honestly, I'm all for it because more often than not, it's going to be inconsequential to the actual continuity of, let's say, the games in this specific instance, because it just boils down to, okay, we have pre-established characters that are that the community is well aware of, but either because they're canonically dead or something to that effect, or maybe the actor is more difficult to work with, the game creators would not have the opportunity to further expand on an interesting canvas of a character. So I'm all for it. But then looking at the way this show has done it, I feel like they've been pretty open about the fact that this was going to be an original take from the beginning. But then they kind of betrayed that premise because when looking at the first 2 episodes, felt like, okay, they're going in a different direction. That's cool. But then episode 3 rolls around and it almost feels like they start doing a checklist type of thing because you see, okay, Majima fight, you gotta have that. Fans are gonna love that. Oh, massive action scene and shootout in Theater Square. Fans are gonna love that. It feels like it's at odds with what they were building up towards in the first 2 episodes, which results in my opinion, episodes 3 and 4, despite how enjoyable they were, kind of suffering from the succinctness of the actual idea that they started off with and were marketing in the actual show.
Right. Well, speaking of that, this whole like alternate reality topic, have you guys played any Dead Rising game?
Oh yeah,
I've not.
Love the series. I speedrun them.
Yeah. Well, there's Dead Rising 2 and then there's Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, right? Like it's just basically Dead Rising 2 but with Frank. This might be off topic, but what would you think about a Yakuza game where for the most part it's the same, you just have like a completely different protagonist, so that means completely different dialogue and completely different gameplay and that kind of thing. Let's start with you, Froob. What would you think about that?
Yeah, do you mean like the game still plays out exactly the same like that, or
for the most part, yeah. I guess you just have like a new fighting style because you're playing somebody new.
And then obviously like a boss fight thrown in here or there as a surprise, like with Off the Record, as like Chuck was thrown in as like a psychopath. That was cool. That was very cool. I like that a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like an idea that I threw around is Yakuza 1, but Kiryu goes to jail. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Nishiki goes to jail. Yeah, Nishiki goes to jail. And you play as Nishiki.
Yeah, I guess, but it all depends on like the direction they want to take it in, because like I feel like if that had happened, Nishiki would have just done his time, come out. Kiryu would have just carried on doing his thing, have family like under the Tojo or Kazuma family, and then I feel like everything probably just would have gone smoothly.
Yeah,
is the thing. Yeah. Like they'd have to find like some kind of hook.
Unless Nishiki gets out of jail, he sees Kiryu being happily married and all that, and he gets jealous, and you play as Nishiki as a villain, except I don't know what I'm cooking with this. Forget about it.
You might be onto something, unironically. Yeah.
I guess we can talk about the story of the show.
I guess we should probably go from start to finish, but
right.
It's kind of weird because like even though I just saw like episodes 4, 5, and 6 like a day or two ago, I don't remember much of episode 4. I only remember things I disliked about episode 3.
I've watched it all twice as well because I watched it once on my own and then once with my brother when he was watching it. And I can tell you right now, any sort of event, I don't know which episode they happened in.
Yeah.
It's a problem. It's just releasing all the 3 episodes in one week and then 3 episodes in the other week. I hate how streaming services do that now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like that at the end of episode 3 because I was actually like really enjoying myself at the end of episode 3, and I was like, I just want to see more of this. And then by the time like 4, 5, and 6 came along, it was just like, all right, I've kind of lost a little bit of track here. And they don't, obviously, because it's a TV show, they don't have like a big, hey, this happened on the last episode of Dragon Ball Z. So
yeah, true.
And I also think, and I know we're going to talk about it in a bit, I think the jumps between 95, 2005, and the 80s in a lot of episodes, I don't think it fully helps all the time.
Yeah.
I
No.
feel like it's a little too, especially in the early episodes, a little too sporadic in jumping around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that it really doesn't want to do is it doesn't want to show off the twist that we know with, Nishiki and Dojima. And
Mhm.
like for the show, that's obviously something that they're like, hyping up, like building up, blah blah blah. You obviously see Kiryu get called boss killer for the entire time, which that's also weird if you decide to watch it in Japanese with the official subs first. It's never ever fully explained that Kiryu like killed Dojima. Like they
Mm,
constantly call him Oyagoroshi, which we know what that means.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the subtitles, it also says Oyagoroshi instead of boss killer, whereas the English dub, which is very good by the way,
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
they actually like call him boss killer. So
I wish I knew that. I had no idea what that meant.
Mm.
I'll be honest.
See, and that's the issue. Is like if you're coming into this and you're someone who wants to watch it in like the original language, which is something I usually like to do with any kind of media in like like when it's like an actual like movie or anime, etc., etc. Like if you don't know what an Oyagoroshi is, that's kind of just like, what is this guy? Like, why do they hate this guy for that? And there's only like one line in like episode 2 that's just like when Kiryu gets out of jail that's like, oh, like you're a boss killer. Like,
Mhm.
that's the only time they like actually like explain it. Like if you don't like understand it there, you're in trouble until obviously like episode 5.
Yeah.
I feel like the jumps back and forth are just too much at times.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Oh,
I
wait,
do think if they showed the sequence of events in the first 3 episodes, like being in 1995, there definitely could have been a way they would pull off like a. I think basically if they had the first 3 episodes in 1995 and the rest in 2005, that would also build some form of suspense, and it would work well.
Yeah.
Probably better than what we have right now.
I actually want to ask you three.
Mhm.
Which part of the story do you think is stronger, 95 or 2005?
95.
Yeah, 95.
Yeah, not including the actual finale of 2005, 95 is better.
Yeah,
I
fully
think
agree.
most people have seen. They said 95 as well.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the reason why they did the cuts like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
hmm.
because then they'd waste all of it in the first 3 episodes, and the rest of the 3 would be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know,
It's-
but like having 3 episodes like back to back of 1995 would probably accumulate a very good opinion, and by the time you get to episode 4, I can see some people not really caring if the rest isn't as good. But I mean,
Yeah.
there is
Yeah,
some
but
debate to be
then-
had there.
A problem that would happen, because I've seen far too many people that like just watched the trailers and then made the whole judgment call on that, or like
Yeah.
IGN giving the whole thing a 4 just because of the first 3 episodes. Can you
Yeah.
imagine if because Kiryu gets his suit in 2005? Can you imagine if the first 3 episodes he doesn't wear his suit once? How many fucking people would just be crying about that, even though it's like something that hasn't happened yet?
True, actually.
That's a big problem that 100% would have happened.
Yeah.
Because
you're right.
even people like seeing Kiryu smile and laugh, and they're just like, oh, it's unfaithful to
Oh
the
yeah,
character.
it's unfaithful.
Play the
That's not my
fucking games, dude. Like what?
Okay,
It's
to
the
be
whole-
He hasn't
honest,
lost his life yet.
I
but,
know this is a
like,
bit early to talk about it, but seeing Kiryu like laugh like a normal kid in 95, I was like, yeah, dude, that's what a teenager would do. I assume he was a teenager in the show at least.
Yeah, around that age.
Yes, yeah, something like that. Early 20s or some shit. I don't know. Fucking
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I don't know like if they decreased their age in the show or not, but I assume they did because they were still at the orphanage.
Yeah. But does anyone know when you're allowed to smoke in Japan? Because I think that's like the age there are in 1995.
Around 18.
I have no
maybe then?
idea.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
probably.
Should
Something
be
like that.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know Tatsuya was getting a lot of shit for doing it in both the J drama and the games, in the or at least in the first game when he was like 17.
17.
Yeah, I guess we can just like start talking about how the story kicks off. So I'll actually wrote some notes that might help with this. So I don't know if we'll like take turns trying to tell what happens, but for the time being, let me just say this. So the show, for those who didn't watch it or don't plan to watch it, it kicks off with Kiryu, Nishiki, Yumi, and Miho, who is Nishiki's sister. They changed her name from Yuko to Miho in the show for some reason. So all 4 of them pull off a heist at this like Yakuza-owned arcade, and it's owned by the Dojima family, right? And this is, of course, at 1995. They all still live in Sunflower Orphanage, and Shintaro Kazuma is actually the caretaker of the orphanage. He's not a Yakuza, unlike the games. He's ex-Yakuza. But he still is like a reputable Yakuza who was, like, once upon a time very famous in that world. But he left that life behind and he looks after the kids. But then we'll just refer to them as the group, as I put in my notes, the group being Kiryu, Nishiki, Yumi, and Miho. They get busted by the Dojima family, and then they basically have to, like, answer for what they've done. So I don't know, like, okay, maybe you guys know this, but Kiryu wanting to join the Dojima family right after that, like, were they supposed to say that he wanted to do that from the beginning? Or was that like a way for him to escape the situation?
The other thing, definitely, because it felt like, yeah, he did idolize the concept of something like a Dragon of Dojima, but whatever. But I feel like the way that he reacted there was a combination of trying to make up for getting everyone into shit. Because remember when the Dojima family was actually getting to the orphanage, and he was so panicked over everything. It was like, no, everyone,
Yeah.
get the hell away.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it was more so trying to help them, but then in trying to appeal to Dojima to actually get him to, well, sign him on to the Yakuza lifestyle, he appeals to the whole,
Mhm.
honorable side, powerful side, la di da. So it did wind up being like it was drawing in a more selfish act, if you will, even though that wasn't necessarily the case.
Right. Well, Kiryu ends up pleading to Dojima to let him join. And there's one very controversial line here. I think we can just talk about it now. Kiryu just says something along the lines of, I want to become the dragon, or I want to be the dragon of Dojima, or whatever the hell he says. I forgot. But
Yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah.
yeah, so this one line, even before the show came out, there was screenshots of it, and people were like, okay, Kiryu would never say that. And then, that basically it sort of sealed the fate of the show for a lot of people.
Yep. And that's why I say some people just watch the trailers and they made their whole judgment call on it, because if you watch the show, it just explains the context and you go, oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, you basically said what you think, Snowiest. Now, what do you think, Froob and Gokudoni?
I think the line is still really fucking dumb, but again, context matters, and in context of the show and who or what the Dragon of Dojima personifies, it makes sense.
Mhm.
Like when Kiryu first says it out loud, like you don't have any
Context.
the only thing you've seen, yeah, no context. Like the only thing you've seen previously is like the very very beginning flashback of
Mhm.
when he was a kid watching this fight. Like you don't have any actual context, and
Mhm.
then that's where they explain what the Dragon of Dojima means in the show. It's less of a it is still a status symbol thing, but it's like less of a status symbol and more of an actual person. And like I do actually kind of like how they tie in the tattoo to the Dragon of Dojima story, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
How every time Kiryu wins more and more fights,
Oh, yeah, they keep
they fill
inking
in.
the tattoo.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
like
that
a
is
lot
cool.
of people again, as Snowiest was saying, like called it at the very start of, oh, the tattoo doesn't have eyes, it's going to be terrible, and it's an actual plot point that
It
the
is.
tattoo doesn't have eyes. Like,
Yeah.
Did that
and
make
I
any of
actually
you
kinda
think of
like how they
Rikia?
did that.
Yeah,
A
same.
little bit, yeah. But yeah, I really kind of like how they did that. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like they actually built off of it. Like, there's like symbolism behind it for obviously the game, but it's a different kind of symbolism for the show. And I
Mhm.
think it works a bit better for the context of the show because again, you kind of need that hook rather than just, oh, here's some ink, because they could have just gone, oh yeah, this is just a Yakuza tattoo, because there's a couple of characters that turn up that
Mhm.
have like really cool ink. There's that one Omi dude with the sword that in all the trailers, I think we all called, hey, that guy's Shimano. And
Yep.
he was definitely not Shimano. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of like that they added like a little bit of emphasis for that. And like I know a lot of people think the line is dumb, and like even in context, it's a little dumb, but it
Mhm.
has context and it has actual weight behind it. Like
Right.
knowing the like actual like story context and like
Mhm.
seeing it happen, it's kind of like, you know what? Yeah, no, I can understand this. Like I see where you're going with this. Like you're gonna have him build up to like actually be the Dragon of Dojima. Like
Yeah.
you actually get, whether, as you say, like with the whole, I want to join the Yakuza.
Mhm.
Obviously, he's trying to save his friends at that point. But I do genuinely think that he did idolize the Dragon of Dojima and wanted to be the Dragon of Dojima. Like, I just think that was just that bit was plot convenience of just, oh, I've got to save my friends. Plus, oh, I see my way into the Yakuza. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think he planned on that, getting them all caught, etc. But it did lead to that line, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And what do you think about, that particular line, Gokudoni?
I mean, in essence, it kind of draws, at least in the broader strokes, it draws from the same logic like Kiryu in Yakuza 0 wanting to be a Yakuza. In this case, wanting to be the Dragon of Dojima, because we've seen from the opening of the show where they're not happy living in such a constrained lifestyle, just being constantly at the orphanage. They want, the youthful idea of freedom and being able to do whatever you want. And seeing someone like the Dragon of Dojima, someone that he idealized, it felt like if he can embody that figure, he could change his current lifestyle to be something that he would be happy with, or at least something that he currently dreams of happening. So while it could have been conveyed better, because a lot of things in this show can just be taken out of context and people can say, oh, this is the worst adaptation ever, putting aside all the context. So I am kind of sad about that. But then again, it feels like the series as a whole was meant to appeal to a new audience. But then there's a lot of things that will go over your head unless you have the base understanding of the games. It's a really weird thing in that regard. Even something like, Oyagoroshi, obviously, us knowing what it is. But even something like, I'm sure most people didn't know what a Hanko stamp was until this show came about. And they were like, what? Why are they going? What the hell is that thing that they're going for? And for anyone that may still be confused over it, in Japan, you have kind of a substitute for handwritten signatures, and it is that stamp. It's basically, your formal way of legally saying, yes, I agree with the statement that is written. And it's a very important object. And they keep calling it a seal, and it's like, what the hell are you gonna know about the seal? Why didn't anyone hand sign it? That's
Asian
why, because
flashbacks.
that's his. But yeah, that's essentially it.
My take on the title is that I do think it's interesting how in the show they made it like a like an underground arena kind of name instead of it being like, I don't know, just somebody, like a specific person who was called that. I do think there is some merit in that idea, but I do think instead of Kiryu just flat out going, I want to become, the bearer of that title, I think they could have had, for example, somebody explaining that, there is a title in the underground called the Dragon of Dojima, and, Dojima has this ring, and his strongest champion would earn that title, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that would be very much Yakuza-esque, and that might have worked better. But unfortunately, yeah, it is very easy to just take one line from a screenshot and be like, okay, this is probably how the entire show is like, and you know what? The show sucks. I do think there was potential here. In the show, it felt like he was joining the Yakuza out of desperation more than the games, and I actually kind of like that. In the games, you're just given the impression that, Kiryu joins the Yakuza because he thinks they're cool. Like a deluded boy's dream, right? Like he thinks he's gonna have like all the success, cars, I don't know, freaking fame, and he didn't think about the long run where he's probably gonna be screwed over so hard in so many ways. But in the show, there was this same kind of feeling where of a specific scene that I think people also took the piss out of, where Kiryu walks down the street with Nishiki, like laughing at these thugs being scared that they're from the Dojima family. I felt like that part did embody the idea of like what they were expecting life in the Yakuza will be like versus, what ends up happening. There is a good idea there.
I feel like young Kiryu and Nishiki would be like that anyway in the games.
Oh
yeah,
really?
definitely.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
kind of were.
Yeah,
I mean, like
Yakuza
look at
0.
the intro of
Yeah.
Yakuza 0. Yeah. Like Nishiki's throwing you around to all the pubs and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, look at this! Look at all these women that are after me."
Yeah.
That's like the idea that they always had.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people forget, and like a lot of people love Yakuza 0, and I think they would remember if they went back and like played the start of it. They're young, they're brash, and they are idiots. They do some dumb decisions in Yakuza 0. Nishiki, one of the most like hard hitting scenes in 0, Nishiki with the gun, like taking Kiryu to, that forest, etc. Like they're brothers, they love each other so much, but they do some dumb shit. Like
They do.
and it's the same for here where they're young and inexperienced. Like, Nishiki at first, especially, and I think this goes really well with the themes of the show of Nishiki, not being on board with, joining the Yakuza and being like, this is a bad idea, to like suddenly seeing like even though it's hard work, the brighter side of it, the actual potential rewards, And then, as we all know, the fall from grace. Like, it makes it hit harder.
Yeah, like you said, they do some dumb shit, so much so Kiryu fucking stole Nishiki's car in Yakuza 0 and just left him in the forest. I'll never fucking forget that. Like, what the hell are you thinking, Kiryu?
I'll call an Uber. Oh, wait.
Wait, hang on, Uber's not invented yet. Wait.
Like, I do think, whenever people are too harsh on the TV series, which I'm not saying nobody's warranted to do that, but like, there are so many dumb things about the games. Like, I can overlook a few things about the TV series, but I will still, criticize what it brought because there's a lot of things that could have been better. Right, so he wants to become the Dragon of Dojima, and something to talk about because it is like relevant at this point. Dojima in the show is very different.
Very, yes.
Very classy compared to the games. Like in the games, in Yakuza 0 specifically, he looks like a spoiled kid with two dads. And in the show, he has like this really cool, neat suit, and he's like, he has a lot of control. It feels like. I'm not saying he didn't in the games, but man, what a difference!
Yeah, he's pretty kingly.
Yeah, kingly's one word to put it. I think I would say Dojima is like one of the things that I actually might like more in the show.
Yeah, I mean, in Yakuza 1, he was kind of, like
Dead.
dead.
So Dojima does end up, taking Kiryu and Nishiki in, right? And what happens next? Oh yeah, there's this whole deal with like the construction of the Millennium Tower. Like, the guy said earlier, they sort of take from Yakuza 0 with that. And I think this is where Shibusawa enters.
Yeah.
You know what?
He and his ice cream.
Ice cream and the chestnuts.
Oh, wait, the opening line when it was like, oh yeah, some random dude got stabbed on the hood of my car. Don't touch it. It's really, really precious.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah. I can fully understand why people did not like the this Shibusawa. He's obviously very different to, the Shibusawa in Zero. I don't know if it was supposed to be like an intentional cameo or if it's just, hey, this guy's got the same name, etc.
I sort of thought the reason why is because like Shibusawa was a sort of kind guy who was in the Dojima family out of, the other two who are assholes.
Yeah, they were assholes from the get-go, yeah.
Yeah, he also, Shibusawa in Yakuza 0 goes to jail, and then this one goes to jail, and I guess that's their reasoning. Just a nice dude in the Dojima family goes to jail. Boom. Shibusawa pick him.
Maybe they were trying to also drive home the, in quotes, like strong quotes, the calculating idea. Like,
I wouldn't really go.
No, I was just going to say, like, planning out this, like, super complex plan and trying to move up the ranks, but, the show falls apart really fast. The show Shibusawa, I mean.
I mean, while we're on that, the whole idea, okay, it would be cool if post-time skip, he suddenly comes out jacked out of prison and he's like, now it's time to enact my plan. But then at the same time, this was the same guy who saw a dead guy and he just went, I'm going to take a piss here anyway.
Yeah, true. To be honest, at the bare minimum, I find Sho Shibusawa to be funny, and for that alone, I don't hate it. Now, it could have been better. It could have been like, that super jack dude from the game, and I would love that as well. But I find Sho Shibusawa to be funny. But yeah,
if it
anyway.
was a Yakuza 0 interpretation he was like that, I'd be pissed off. But
yes.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Shibusawa wasn't even in Yakuza 1.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's not meant to be a main character here. And I think that's the important thing. Like, he's meant to be a kind of like driving force of that early, this is how things work as you're an underling of the Yakuza. He's your boss. You listen to him, blah, blah, blah. And he's the first one hit by the raid. And that's the impetus that gives Nishiki the panic of, oh God, they're going to come for us. We have to go and get the seal so that we can get our hands on the deed, or like get in Dojima's good graces, which obviously Dojima already had a plan because a certain two other characters were sent after the guy that had the seal.
Oh yeah, there's something I forgot to mention as well. Just as Kiryu and Nishiki joined the Yakuza and they showed them being like all happy at first, there was a similar thing with Yumi and Miho, like sort of working as hostesses to pay off their debt to Dojima. Yeah. And they also showed them being like, oh, that this job is actually not that bad, but then, the woes come later. And I really like, that they gave Yumi and Miho an arc here. I think it worked pretty well.
Yes.
Now, the bar they end up working at is Serena, and the the head of the bar is Reina, and I actually really like Reina in the show. I think she's really elegant. I loved her.
Serena finally has customers.
Yeah, true. Is there anything in particular you guys want to say about Serena or Reina before we move on?
I wanted to. Oh, sorry.
Go. No, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, because I saw one of the stupid viral posts that people were hating on the show was saying that they were showing like Yumi and Miho being all excited to get sold off to the red light district as though they were
I saw that
prostitutes.
too.
Like, that's not what a hostess is. Just real quick.
Oh, dude.
Please don't say that.
Man, why is the internet so stupid?
Yeah. Everyone's agreeing with him. Like, stop.
Yeah. Like, even the games make it a point to say that, being a hostess isn't like what a lot of people think. It is a proper job. Well, anyway.
You still have hostesses in cabaret clubs to today. Like,
yeah,
legit.
Just like the way people take the piss so easily, and you know what? Let's move on.
I mean, it's the usual stuff because it's really, really easy to rile people up over something like a live-action adaptation. Either because they think, oh no, something that was so private to me is now going to be exposed to everyone.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, if someone sees the show and they're like, man, this is the games that you like? What the hell is this?
Right, so where were we? Oh yeah, Shibusawa basically concocts this like plan with Kiryu and Nishiki. I actually find that so funny. Once again, like he's like, "Yo, you two, I got a job for you, and this was gonna help you like move up the ranks. Trust me, dude." So he wants to basically get Dojima, I think, the deed for the Millennium Tower,
the seal,
right?
So that he can sign off the land.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, it started off with the deed, but they couldn't find the seal because it was in the safe. It was missing from the
So wait, we have a deed and a seal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so basically to be able to give over the land to somebody else, you first need the deed, and then you need the seal of the person who owns the land, and then obviously a seal from the person you are transferring the land to, which obviously Dojima would have because he'd have his own seal.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Basically, it's. For those who haven't seen the show, it's this Western guy called Edgar. So Dojima in Serena does a big kind of presentation about this big fancy ass tower that definitely has too many spires on TV show. I'll say it. That thing looks like it's been sexed up. I said it. And essentially, yeah, the Westerner is like, he kind of doesn't trust him, and he's like, he doesn't want to be on board with this. He's like the last holdout, and that's the reason why the Millennium Tower plot can't go ahead. And he mysteriously ends up dead somehow. Wow, wonder how that happened. You'll never guess. And essentially, yeah. So that's why they're going after at first the deed, where they expected to find his seal at the same time. They get the deed, and then they look at, and the rest of the cipher is like seal, which is, as said earlier by Gokudoni, like the actual like signature that you would do in Japan, and it's not there. So, and that's what causes this big old, we've got to find this seal, is the reason why when Shibusawa gets arrested, Nishiki gets very, very like scared because he thinks they're going to go for them next because they were working under Shibusawa.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks eventually, they'll go down for them. So if they can get that seal, they can get in Dojima's good graces. But as said, there's a certain other characters who go convenient by the name of Majima and Saejima, who were also sent after. And obviously, you can probably tell things didn't go too great for either set of characters.
To be honest, I do like the idea of like a Majima Saejima duo versus Nishiki and Kiryu. I think it is cool.
Yeah, although I'm going to say it. The fuck did you do to Saejima?
Yeah.
He wasn't a character. He just got shot and smiled.
Like, what the fuck was that? I had to hold my disbelief at that point because it's so not Saejima. And it does, him getting shot is very Saejima. The way that he reacts, just giggling, smiling, having the time of his fucking life. Yo, I'm dying, bro.
It took all of Majima's goofiness.
Yeah, he turned from 18 shots Saejima to 18 shits Saejima, and Majima just went, "I'll kill you if you die. Don't you dare."
And here's the wild part: we don't know what happens after that. They never say, Saejima survives, Saejima dies. We don't see him in 2005. I wonder if that's just a plot line of he'll turn back up. But even if he does, it's there's no impetus on who Saejima is from season 1. He's just that goofball that hangs out with Majima. And Majima's a fucking goofball in himself. He's actually very serious in 95 and becomes his more like Mad Dog self in 2005 for like one scene or two scenes. And like, oh man, I don't know what you did with Saijima, but I don't like it.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of the casualties, unless you explicitly see a sea of blood in front of you, a lot of people are like, did they survive in the end?
We're
Didn't
gonna have
they?"
to have a conversation about that because there's like 4 or 5 different characters that get shot or stabbed in the finale. The only one that I know is fucking dead is Shimano because he fell out of the Millennium Tower.
Oh yeah, right,
Yeah.
right in between Sera and Kazama
Yeah.
during the
That's
conversation.
what kicks off the fight.
Beautiful.
We're not even halfway through the story, and we're already talking so much about this shit.
It goes, for those who haven't watched it, it goes all over the fucking place, and for certain parts, it is a fucking mess.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But yeah, one thing we all agree on is that Saijima was done dirty. I think.
He's the big brute. That's kind of, they simplified him essentially.
They
Yeah.
made him happy. Like, I'm not saying, because Saijima, when you see him in the flashback for Yakuza 4, yeah, because I know some people will say it. Yeah, he is happy in that flashback. But we're talking, this guy is walking around with a big fucking grin on his face, happy that he got shot.
I mean,
Like-
he looks like he was in Dead Souls and zombified. He looked like he was gonna go Kimochi.
Maybe after multiple games where he has almost nothing to do, that's like he just didn't want to take it anymore, and that's what they gave him in the show.
He saw what he would have to do in Yakuza 4 and 5, and he was like, nah.
He saw what the writers did to the Saijima family and was like, you know what, I'm out.
No more prison. Take me to China, please.
So yeah, like Froob said, Saijima and Majima versus Nishiki and Kiryu have like a basically a shootout, and they're fighting for this seal. And then who ends up getting it? The florist.
Say hello to another character. I fucking hate what they did within the show.
Yeah, that I cannot defend that at all.
No, just
Okay.
I
maybe
do
the
not
worst
like
one.
I do not like the implication of that scene with Alice in episode 3 and what he potentially did to her.
Oh, same. Oh god. that
Wait,
was
were they
bad.
actually trying to imply something?
Imply
I mean, they
like-
kind of cut away, but he was very, very sleazy about. Oh,
Yeah.
I need the seal. Do you have any idea where it is?
you're
Ha, ha.
all alone, you know, blah blah
Right.
blah.
Right.
like-
Never mind
it's-
the fact that Majima is there, just kind of collapsed.
yeah.
I get it. Characters in the Yakuza series are not supposed to be likable, like
Mhm.
at all. But oh my god, they completely also changed what the florist was supposed to be like. And again, I know, you know, adaptation and what they're doing of their own thing, but the florist very much did not like working with the Yakuza,
Yeah.
like at all.
Yeah.
And then, you know, his
He
backstory
ends
of,
up,
you know,
yeah, he ends up handing
Yeah.
the seal to Dojima in the show.
yeah, and his
Yeah.
backstory of being a cop makes sense because it's similar to what it was in the actual thing. So it's very similar there. But just the whole sleazy aspect of it. I'm not expecting him to be, you know, as refined and dignified as he is in like the actual games. And they did get his like at least like character design done quite well.
Yeah.
Ugh, no, I do not like what they did with the florist at
It
all.
felt like they turned him into Kugihara, oddly enough.
Yeah,
Mm.
thank God he's fucking dead. Probably, maybe.
We
Season
don't
2.
know. Season 2.
Yeah, you know what? After you guys said that, I gotta take a moment to think about what I think of the florist in the show.
Yeah,
I mean, they just reversed it. It was like in the games, everyone went to him because he was in a position of power, and he's like, "Oh, here, my master, I have this little thing for you." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
You know, I'm not trying to really say he was a good character in the show, but I do like that they try to at least explore how he became like from corrupt cop to whatever the fuck he became later. But it could have been
Don't
done
like
better.
the way they
definitely.
did it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Oh, that might actually be a part of, let's say, a J-drama formula, because there's a lot of scenes that feel like they go a bit too far into the whole idea of making you feel utter discomfort at the scene. Like, for example, Majima losing his eye or Nishiki being severely beaten down. Those scenes take way too fucking long and show way too fucking much. And the same thing with the whole scene of the Flores doing what he does. It feels like it's just there to be cheap shock factor, like I'm watching a grittier Mexican telenovela, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Yeah, they also sort of interpret it as like, oh, weird fat guy who just spies on people all day. He must be a creep. Let's make him creepy.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Also, I just realized, but with the sequence we're going with, in my notes, I actually had it written chronologically. So from 1995, everything, and then we go to 2005, if that's
Oh,
okay.
Thank you. Thank you, because I tried doing it episode by episode, and looking at my notes is like, oh yeah, they do this, and then wait, this is in 05. Is this in 05?
Yeah.
Oh god,
Right,
too many
yeah.
jumps.
I didn't finish my notes, but I do have most of them now, I think. Or, well, at least all of 1995.
Are you writing as we speak?
No, actually, no. I did write all of this yesterday. I just didn't finish it. But we'll be okay. We're the Yakuza boys after all.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So after the florist hands the seal to Dojima, not long after that, Miho, Nishiki's sister, which let me just say again, probably my favorite character in the whole show. Like, man. Anyway, she gets seriously ill, and she has to be hospitalized. So she ends up needing a kidney transplant, and Nishiki offers to donate his. But the doctor tells him that his blood type doesn't match, so they need a different donor. Now the group becomes desperate for money to, actually do something about this. Kiryu decides he'll fight in Dojima's underground ring. So we probably didn't mention this before, or maybe we did. But the underground arena in this show, it belongs to Dojima. So he begs Dojima to let him fight and let him earn money. And he ends up agreeing to that. So after a lot of training, something I do like about the show, by the way, you see Kiryu training a lot, unlike the games where he's just like magically Superman. So Kiryu keeps winning one match after another, and then it gets to the point where Dojima thinks he's getting a little too good, so he decides to kind of basically rig the final match. So he tells Nishiki, hey Nishiki, I got a little proposal for you, and if you do this, your sister is going to be saved, guaranteed. So what does he do? He gives him basically some kind of like, what are they supposed to be like? Just like,
They actually look like batteries.
Yeah, they look like batteries. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, they're just gonna chuck batteries in his drink. I'm like, what?
Don't worry, that will weaken him. Cut to him foaming at the mouth.
He will not notice the batteries in the drink, Nishiki. Put them in. Yeah, so basically he wants them to spike Kiryu's drink before or during the match. And Nishiki, of course, hesitates all throughout. But, thinking of his sister, he ends up doing it during the during the match. But Yumi catches him. She's like, Nishiki, what the fuck are you doing? Drop this right now. So Nishiki tries to give the drink to Kiryu. Yumi doesn't allow it. And then there's like this intense exchange between the group. Until Nishiki just, comes out with the truth, saying, Dojima set him up to doing all of this, and that if Kiryu wins the match, it's over for Miho. Now, Kiryu goes back into the match. He has no time to think, and he's, like, looking back and forth between the opponent and between, Nishiki and Yumi and Kazuma. I actually really liked the scene. I thought it was well made. Like, just the conflict between trying to save his friend's sister and also trying to win this match, like... There's a lot of uncertainty. But then I gotta say, the uppercut he ends up giving felt kind of weird.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's dumb. Like, the build-up was really good, as you said, but just, no. Ugh.
Yeah, so for
None
the
of the fight
viewers...
scenes are really special.
Yeah. I was gonna say, for the viewers, like, Kiryu is basically on the verge of losing. Like, he's getting beat up so hard. But somehow he ends up doing this, like, weird uppercut, and he wins. Even though he never laid a hand on the opponent up until now. And it looked like a pretty weak attack, too. So, like, I don't know what happened there.
And there's, like, this weird, like, kind of not musical montage, but it's, like, not the normal kind of music. It's, like, special kind of music, etc. I'm going to say something potentially stupid, which, I mean, I'm British. Everything I say sounds really stupid.
Don't worry, go on.
Essentially, I'm going to say something really dumb. Or it's going to sound like really dumb. I think all the fights were too choreographed. Like, the fights with Kiryu in the underground. I kind of feel like I wish they were just a bit more raw and visceral. Because it feels too clean for an underground fight, if that makes sense.
I think I get where you're coming from, yeah.
Kind of depends from scene to scene, though. Because remember the first one where he's just an idiot, rushes into a guy, and heals himself?
Yeah.
True.
Those. But then, okay, counter-argument to that. Because we see more extensive fights in the underground, but then I could say that leads to him being infinitely more proficient in 05 when the fights are actually pretty short and to the point, almost like he does one heat action and that's the end of it.
True, yeah.
But yeah, it should have been more kind of more like what they did in Kurokyo. And I'm gonna keep mentioning it. Either if you played the games or the J-drama, there's a lot of cues taken from Kurokyo to the point where this Colosseum just looks like Dragon Heat, and Dojima himself acts like Cookie, and it's like, what? I think you're adapting the wrong game. I'm just gonna say.
There definitely feels like a mix of multiple things between, Yakuza itself, then there's Judgment, which we'll get into later, and then Kurohyo. Yeah, I see it. I see it, definitely.
Yeah, well, the thing is with live action TV shows and movies, when you do fight scenes and stuff, is you got to really rely on the camera work. Because, I mean, like, when you're doing a stage play or something like that, you got to do I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but you, like, put your hand up from behind the audience's view, and then the other person punches your hand, and it sounds like you've been punched, and then you react that way.
Interesting.
But with like a TV show and stuff like that, you gotta like doing like camera shake and stuff is cheap, but you gotta get the right angles to make it look like you really punched it. There was one punch or something where I looked at it and I just thought like, that's so obviously fake. Like Kiryu so obviously kicks like a kilometer away from this guy, and he reacts like, "Oh, I've just been kicked in the face." Just put like 2 extra seconds of effort into that kick or something like that. It's gonna look cooler. Or just the simple thing that they did is a lot of like throws and grappling moves and stuff like that, like slamming them down on the ground. That stuff's fine, but like the punches and kicks, like
I do agree with that.
Yeah, this is going to be a weird analogy, so bear with me. It's like Pacific Rim compared to the sequel to Pacific Rim. The thing that makes Pacific Rim's fights work really well, despite the fact that they're slow and sluggish, is the fact that Del Toro knows to put weight behind every attack. Whereas that is completely missing in the sequel. And it's kind of similar here in that, like, the punches sometimes feel like slaps with a wet fish. Like, there's, like, barely any, like, one physical contact, because, they're not going to be, like, hitting each other. But as you say, like, some of them seem just way too, quite obviously, oh, yeah, he was nowhere near that guy. There's just no real weight to it, be it, like, as you say, like, camera effects or, like, sound effects or, like, just stuff like that. It's like
use some of the sound effects from the games where it's like like a anvil being struck or something like that, but instead it really is just a slap.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because they'll then try to play it off because we saw him practice that uppercut in front of Miho before she collapsed, and it's like, yes, I'm gonna use that move. But then if you hadn't used that move, you wouldn't cost her life. Why are you doing this? And then you don't elaborate on it. It's like, this one's for you, Miho. She's gonna die now. Thank you, Miho, for your strength.
Rest in peace, bitch. Boom.
How do we feel in general about Kiryu not throwing that match? I am curious about that. About how
I don't think
actually
he intended to like win. It just weirdly happened.
Yeah. I think because it like obviously wasn't, he went like, I have to win so Miho dies, and then boom. But I thought it was really cool when I went, oh my god, the one who actually betrayed the other, technically in this instance, was Kiryu.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great twist
on it. Yeah, it was an amazing twist.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that as well. So, like Snowiest just said, the moment Kiryu throws that uppercut and wins the match, when Nishiki told him not to win, that's the moment when Nishiki just sees this as a complete betrayal and starts to change. Especially after he soon finds out that Dojima's proposal to him of like, spike Kiryu's drink, I'm gonna get you whatever you want. That was all false. There was no donor for the for the kidney, and Nishiki was actually compatible, and Miho dies for nothing basically.
Yeah, they kind of did the Kiwami thing. Yeah.
I like that a lot. It's very surprising how close they played it to the games with all that flashback stuff towards the end of '95. But, that little extra gut twist instead of the Doctor just disappearing, of just like hey, by the way, you were compatible the entire time. There was no donor. Like. Yeah, that really works well in context of like the show and even the game of just, having like Nishiki is like, fall from grace, as to say, of just, this is his driving force, and that explains a lot. And it's well like shown off. It's got enough time dedicated to it in the show without going too much into it. Like, it's succinct, it's simple, it's perfect.
If I'm being honest, I think Miho's death affected me way more than Yuko's death.
I think it helps that we actually have her as a character for a couple of episodes.
Exactly.
Definitely. I think one of the show's strongest points is the fact that you see the gang actually, hang out and talk and just, do random stuff together. Oh shit! I forgot to mention something. And this one might be a controversial thing.
Ooh.
Aiko.
Nope.
Nah.
Aiko.
They did the Yumi sister plot, but she's real.
She's real,
So
yeah.
Kiri's not a dumb
I
shit for
wish-
not knowing she exists.
I wish she wasn't real.
So how do we
She's
feel about
so
Aiko? Just like straight up.
I hate her.
inconsistent. Yeah.
She's an irredeemable piece of shit.
Damn.
I genuinely it's funny because I've always asked for RGG to do more prominent female characters, and I love the fact that Yumi is more of a prominent female character. But Aiko, fuck off. Like, oh, is she dead, by the way? That's another again, is she dead?
Again.
Like,
Watch all
oh
of the
my
dead
God.
people come back in season 2, man.
There
She
we
did
go.
the
Like-
Yumi thing.
Yeah.
half of them get
Front
taken off
bullet.
in fucking ambulances and just like it's
Yeah.
up in the air whether they're alive or not. But
Uh,
oh my God, I hate her to bits.
Yeah, so like
I get it that she is a deeply traumatized character after watching her mother, walk into a lake. It's a fucking mad world of all things. Don't get me started on that. And
licensed.
just like like you'd like to hope that she would have learned some things, especially from the time in 95 where she meets up with Yumi and like everything goes down in Serena, where she's the one that that sells out the girls, that gets the police involved and all of that jazz and causes the downfall of Serena that way. Like, she's an irredeemable piece of trash. Like, I don't like the scene of them getting the 10 billion either. Like, I feel like that's one of the points of the show that I think is the lowest. Like, you have Aiko and Oishi, who is like her kind of partner, who get the money from in this adaptation. We should mention the 10 billion that's gone missing is not the Tojos, it is the Omis.
Omis, yeah, I
causing
forgot
this
about
fight
that.
between the Omi and the Tojo.
yeah.
And when they rob this truck for the money, Aiko's partner Oishi, they fart in a guy's face before they murder him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh right. Oh god.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about in terms of irredeemable trash.
Well, you know
Like-
what? You know what? Karma. Oh, she gets pissed on later.
Yeah, true.
Wait.
True.
Actually, wait. I'm not sure if this is true, but the actor that played him, I think he was the same actor who played a character in both the Kurohyo 1 drama and the Kurohyo 2 drama, where he played a bit of an, I think, the Nyoka family head. They look kind of similar, and I was like, wait, what the hell? But also, wait, apropos freaking Aiko, at least they could have been consistent in making her irredeemable, because there's some scenes like when she thinks Haruka is dead and she's like, no, it was my fault, tries to repeat in her mother's steps, and then she goes back and as soon as she finds out Haruka is alive, it's like, yeah, I don't care, I don't know. Play it
Yep.
consistently.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe Aiko, but I really am trying to find the words. I think this might sound like a cop-out, but I do think there is some potential in what they were at least planning. But the execution is, yeah, like, I just don't know how to feel about it. I think Aiko probably would be one of my least favorite characters on the show as well. Again, like you guys said, most of the time she shows up just to be an asshole. And I know some of you might, some of you watching it might be like, that's the point, so on and so forth. But I don't know, like, there was this scene at the very beginning, well, not very beginning, but like episode 3 or 2, I think, where they show in 1995 that Yumi, as, barely, like what, I think she was still a teen, she went out to look for her sister in Osaka with Miho, and they got a tip that, she was around this, like, CD bar or something like that. She goes in, the informant that gave her the info, like, really clowns on her, and it's just horrible seeing Yumi being treated that way.
Steals
And then
all her money as well.
steals all her money, yeah. And then they're like,
All
yeah,
of
get
it.
the hell out of here, basically. And then her sister watched all of that, and that didn't do anything for her. It's like, bro, come on now.
Yeah.
She takes the money then.
Yeah,
and
she
when
takes the money as
reunites,
well. Yeah.
Also takes money from Haruka as soon as she meets her some point down the line. Shortly after that visit to Osaka, actually, and it's like, why?
Yeah. How much you
And the
guys want to
way-
bet there's somebody that's going to be like, oh, you guys just can't handle, like, this, this character?
No, write her consistently. There's
Yeah.
merit in writing someone who's a villain for the sake of being a villain. Some of my favorite characters in Yakuza are that. But then, if you're gonna go down that route, and then you try to do... Like, why would this character, a crack addict, throw herself in front of Yumi, who was being shot at, and then just go, "Mendokse, na?" Are Are you fucking? That's not. You're writing her to direct the story in the direction that you want. That's not a believable character. Like,
And
nah.
they do a decent job of like at first, like when the manga store she's working at gets exploded, they do a good job of like the pre bit there of showing her kind of like, you know, a bit air towards Haruka, like not exactly like in our eyes someone who cares about Haruka that much. So the, like the whole explosion, thinking Haruka's dead and going, oh no, she does care. And then at that point she's panicking. She doesn't leave because, you know, she thinks, you know, that, oh well, she's dead, bye bye. Like she does panic, like as you would. And yeah, like
she was also
they
just
do
being hunted down, so
yeah, they do a good job initially, like especially when Yumi, like, you know, finds her trying to leave the world in the same way that their mother did, like of being like, you know, I did care about my daughter, but as Gokudoni says, after that it's just back to the same kind of yeah, it's weird. It feels like those bits were filmed out of sequence.
Yeah. We most likely will come back to Aiko again later, because most of the stuff that happens with her is later anyway. But yeah, so going back to where we were with Nishiki, you know, he sees what Kiryu did as a betrayal, and then Dojima also turns out to have played him. And yeah, this is the turning point for Nishiki. He actually goes after the black market dealer, and he kills him. And in you know, in Yakuza Kiwami, he doesn't even find him there. He's gone. He's broken, and he was basically going to take his own life until, you know, that one dude interrupted him in Kiwami. But in the show,
his name was it like Munakata or something like that?
What was it?
Munashige.
Yeah. Matsuge, I think, something like that.
Yeah. Matsushige.
That Dojima looking guy.
We did play the Kiwami Switch again recently. Thank you, RGG. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, I think like as you're like alluding to, like he's a good replacement for that. Like in the game, obviously there was him as the kill that started Nishiki down this dark path, and in the show, it's obviously, you know, the organ donor. And I think that's like a good way of like tying up that loose end for the TV show of just, you know, instead of just saying a line about, oh, you know, yeah, he's gone, having that be Nishiki's first like kill. Yeah, I get that. I can understand that.
There is something I'm really curious to see what you guys think about. So, okay, first of all, just like a yes or no answer. Would you say Nishiki's transformation is more unhinged in the show? Yes or no?
I mean, again, the whole Demon of Shinjuku part, you know, it's kind of hard not to be perceived as unhinged.
Yeah. But also, I'm leading up to something in particular. So, in the games, Yakuza Kiwami or Yakuza 1 kicks off with Dojima trying to force himself on Yumi. In the show, Nishiki does that after he basically snaps.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that. Do you guys?
No. Stop shoving that stuff in our faces. I don't need to see that crap. I get the idea that it's the same thing like the whole Haruka scene in Yakuza 4. No, it doesn't matter what your intent is. We don't need to see some shit.
Yeah.
I think it was their way of trying to throw in the Yumi and Kiryu love each other storyline.
True.
Which is also weird
true.
when in the TV show, there is nothing like that beforehand. Like,
yeah,
the
it
way
happens
it's structured.
pretty suddenly, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think it's after that you get the flashback to 95 where Yumi kisses Kiryu. Right? I can't remember which way around.
Yeah. Well,
but it feels like it doesn't turn up until like episode 5, which is where all this happens.
well, what I remember is that, you know, almost right after Nishiki does what he does, Yumi goes off running to Kiryu, basically. Yeah, and then she confesses her love for Kiryu. Kiryu's like, whoa, hold on, what the fuck is going on?
I was kind of hoping that they just wouldn't have Yumi and Kiryu be in love at all.
Yeah, it kind of in the show, like, what does it really offer?
Yeah.
I mean it doesn't even lead to anything in 2005, I don't think.
Yeah.
No.
He could have just as easily promised, as a childhood friend of hers, that he wouldn't kill anyone, that he would return to her, and then have the betrayal of that promise lead to the emotional distance in 05. But that wouldn't necessarily include that. Unless they literally wanted to go, the whole scene with Nishiki was the thing that in Yumi's eyes went, oh no, this is the person that I want to be with, therefore running to Kiryu, or desperation, or trying to get him to stay. There's multiple ways of looking at it, but none of them are necessarily beneficial to what the story is trying to tell, because we don't know what the story here is trying to tell.
Yeah.
After she confesses her love to Kiryu, I don't remember what exactly happens, but what I have here in my notes is that I think at some point Kiryu goes back home, and then notices that Nishiki isn't around, but also the gun they had isn't there. And then he asks Yumi what happened, like, where's Nishiki, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So it is from that point that the big happening happens. Kiryu basically asks Yumi where the hell Nishiki went. He was pretty actually pissed at her. It turns out, Nishiki is going to kill Dojima. So Kiryu runs off after Nishiki, and he wants to stop that from happening, but he doesn't stop it. Nishiki just like pulls the gun on Dojima and shoots him. And then right after that, Kiryu barges into the room. He just gives Nishiki this look. He closes the door because, everybody heard the gunshots and the Dojima underlings are storming in. He just basically tells Nishiki, like, get the hell out of here. I'll take the fall. He does it forcefully as well compared to the game, I think, where he takes the gun off of him and he pretends to be pointing at Nishiki after shooting Dojima. And so, that basically tells the Dojima underlings everything that they need to know, and then they take him into jail. And that's how he got into jail. Yeah, so how do you guys feel about this particular plot point in the show? Let's start with Froob, maybe? Go on.
Yeah, I think they actually did it quite well. Like, it's ironic that the thing that, like, gets the closest to the games, I feel like they did really, really well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I saw somebody saying that it doesn't make sense because Miho's already dead, so there's no reason for Kiryu to do that. But from what
They're brothers.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna
Yeah.
say that. Like,
It's-
he's still his friend,
It's the same as, like, the games. And, like, in the games, yeah, like, it kind of gets played off a little bit more, he didn't mean to do that. It was, like, spur of the moment because of, like, obviously what Dojima was trying to do to Yumi. But they still, like, show off, obviously, like, over the 95 aspects in the show, like the brotherly relationship that obviously Kira and Nishiki have. And it's also, like, the hook for the 2005 like segments. So I don't know. I feel like the TV show does it decently.
Yeah. What about you, Gokudoni?
Same thing, because it can also technically be interpreted as, since Nishiki currently, either directly or indirectly, also considers Kiryu to be at fault for his sister dying, you could also see that because Kiryu seeking atonement for that. Because there's also that during the whole exchange, we have Nishiki trying to shoot Kiryu, then himself, and then asking Kiryu to shoot him. And it's like, look, sort yourself out. I'm gonna handle this. This is the last thing that you need with your current psychological state, essentially. And then also the scene that it leads to is really damn good with the whole Nishiki slowly walking away with the Hanko, and
Yeah. Right. What do you think, Snowiest?
I thought it was bloody amazing, to be completely honest. But I was going to say in the game, it's like, I mean, a big problem I've always had. Kiwami fixed it because it has the prologue, but Yakuza 1, you're friends with Nishiki for like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
He shoots Dojima, and then Kiryu's like, you need to live for the sister you apparently have, and all this sort of stuff. And then cops come in. There's no one there in the Dojima office. It's all like rainy and stormy. It's a cool setup with the storm. But in the show, it's so much better because it makes me think like they should have at least started that in like chapter 2 or halfway through the game or something like that. But anyway,
Yeah.
I thought it was great. It starts playing that song, which apparently no one wants to point out the licensed song because it's a Japanese one. Like, Goodbye, My Love. I thought it was so good, just like panning down and you see he's got a bag with him and you're like, oh my God, the gun's in there. He's going to go shoot Dojima.
Yeah.
Kiryu's like, I'm sorry. It's like, I feel so guilty for what happened to Miho. Just get the fuck out of here. You live for Miho.
Yeah.
Because that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
And then it all like, oh, I love as well. It's kind of another problem I have with like them releasing episodes in batches. If it was like one episode a week kind of thing, there would have been such a massive suspense between the end of episode 5 and the start of episode 6.
Oh yeah.
Because it ends with like, oh my God, and then instantly it just cuts like back to just before that. And you go, oh, okay, we're back.
Yeah. Also, I'll say one thing that was emotionally effective for me is when Miho said, "Please stay friends with my brother forever."
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
I joked on Twitter about like, I wish Miho wasn't, a character in it more because of like how I felt towards the show. But I'm actually really glad she was a character in it. Like she like gave a lot of important context, especially for the TV show, that you wouldn't have like compared to the games, and even then, I think the Miho stuff was obviously done way better than the games because she actually existed.
Mhm.
And it's a character that isn't an irredeemable piece of shit. So
Yeah.
like she's loving life maybe a little too much considering, you know, the kidney like failure because of all the alcohol, etc., etc. Like would that have still gone the same way had, you know, Kiryu not joined the Yakuza, blah blah blah. You know, you can ask all these questions, and it's just yeah, I don't know. I like how Miho is done in the
Some
TV
of
series.
honestly, some of that I saw it as being a product of some form of depression, where like she knows she's sick, but she really doesn't want to like, you know, put others down with her, and she just wants to like look the best she can so that people can also be happy around her.
I love as well. It's similar to how Gaiden kind of gave Yumi a dream by saying that she wants to get married in Hawaii. They're just
Yeah.
like giving her all these dreams and aspirations, and she's all happy and stuff. And it's like the makers of the show are just looking at you from the side of their eye, like you know what's going to happen. You already know what's going to happen.
We can basically start the 2005 part now. Now, this is the part where I actually didn't finish my notes, but I think the first thing they show at the very first episode, if I remember right, is Kiryu basically being in jail, right?
Yes.
Yep. Sweaty as hell.
Sweaty as
Yeah,
hell, training.
working out in his cell. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, what the hell is that cell? God damn. So yeah, Kiryu's training, and then I think the next thing we see of him is like he's having a conversation with Date. We didn't talk about Date at all, but what do you guys think of Date in the show?
I mean, he's the cop. That's about
Yeah.
it.
True.
The entire series
They try to
involvement-
change him to like typical, like, you know, kind of I'm doing things not by the book because I want to get things done kind of cop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like he's there, but it's also kind of weird because like in the big bit at the end, people are dying. Data, are you gonna step in at some point?
Where's your helicopter, Date?
Where's Sudo, my beloved?
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
true.
I mean, to be fair, with the latest one, he probably knew that they were gonna bring the money anyway. But even then, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of blood on the street, Date. You're supposed to care about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we see much of 2005 with Kiryu. I mean, we do see a few stuff with Yumi and Aiko, actually. So, like we said before, Aiko pulls off this heist, like stealing the Omi 10 billion yen. And this becomes a whole thing that basically would tie the others into the mess. So, she successfully does steal the 10 billion yen. And they show Yumi still being in contact with Nishiki. Albeit like very limited contact because like, you know, things happened in the past, things aren't the same anymore. But surprisingly, at first, we see that, you know, like I just said, Yumi and Nishiki do talk. Even Kiryu and Nishiki actually stay in touch. It's only later that Kiryu and Nishiki sort of become like enemies. But at first, like they meet, they catch up, and even Nishiki's like, you know, we're family, like don't.
Uh-oh.
Oh, something cut off on my end.
Yeah, same. I think we may have lost Leon.
That's a little unfortunate.
Yep.
Someone edit in Ashley screaming, Leon!
Leon!
Perfect.
That's all good. Do you reckon he's talking to himself?
Does he? Oh! Oh my god, hold on. We need to insert this particular image or screenshot.
Okay, that's kind of funny because I play games with a friend who only uses TCS. So when we played together, I have a Discord channel open. I have notifications on for the channel I'm in. And because like the channel I'm in is this one, all I got from the TCS was, oh my god, hold on. Whoops.
Perfect.
Well, while we're waiting,
Sorry, go on.
I'm gonna put this in the chat. I was gonna put it in earlier. Kiryu like holds, someone kicks him and Kiryu holds his leg like 3 times in the show. I just wanted him to do this every single time.
Yes,
Actually-
yeah, please.
Oh,
yeah.
I wanted him to do that, but he didn't. He just like ooh, and then just let go.
Yeah.
Do something, Kiryu.
But he did the face grating against the wall when the Shimano family went as soon as he exited jail.
Yeah.
It's like, huh, interesting.
I kind of wish they didn't do the camera angle that they did because it was very obviously this guy's face is not against the wall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I reckon
also
he hears us.
Dude, I touched this wire one more time and my mic
He
offs
hears
itself.
us.
I do. Yay! Oh yeah, the whole scene where he's because there's a couple of scenes that are just there to be fluff. Essentially, you can tell that the sequencing of the show is like, oh yeah, we didn't know how to fully build 2005, so we interspiced a lot of 95 stuff to keep it interesting, to keep the intensity up. Kind of like God of War Ascension, telling everything out of order.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, finally. Okay. I had to reset the mic for not only OBS, because I did that, and the audio was showing up, but it didn't show up in Discord. So then I had to reset it on Discord as well. So here we are. I am so sorry about that.
It's funny because like I'm having like different mic problems where my microphone stand is doing this, where it's cracked the entirety of my desk, and then I put a mat down, and it's now cracking that as well. So the microphone's been falling over like this entire time.
Oh man, yeah.
I remember you did a stream where you were like, oh yeah, where's my camera? Lower. And then it was like the biggest dent on the table. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it got bigger.
Damn.
It's I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that.
I was considering getting a new table as well, but man, I have to move so much shit.
We can send you over some steel coasters for Christmas. How's that?
Hey, I'll take it. So, continuing where we picked off, let's pretend none of that happened.
No, leave it in.
I'll leave some of it in, I think. But a lot of it is just me literally looking around my desk like an idiot.
Put in the silly Yakuza sub-story. Wait, actually, that's gonna copy. No, never mind.
Yeah.
Speaking of silly Yakuza sub-story music, there is a certain piece of music that got very overused in the last 2 episodes.
Oh, we'll get to it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So maybe some of you remember this better than I do, but like, how exactly does the 2005 sequence go after they show, you know, like Kiryu getting out of jail, and then Yumi and Nishiki? So I think as soon as Kiryu gets out of jail, was it the Shimano family that goes after him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they
And
just
he
want to
shoves
like.
food full of it in his mouth. There's like part where he gets like takoyaki or something. He just
Yep.
Yeah, he's like
Yeah.
very vehement. I'm not going back to the Kamurocho.
Yeah,
And then he
until
does.
yeah. What do they tell him? I forget. Like, how does he get convinced to go back? I think Date convinces him somehow.
He does. He talks to him about the Yakuza war and like how Yumi and Nishiki is involved, like a little bit. I can't remember the
Right.
exact particulars.
Right.
Yeah, same.
I remember thinking that it was a weak reason.
Yeah, I can't remember it either. But well, you know, for one reason or another, Kiryu does go back to Kamurocho, and I think pretty much one of the first things he does is look for Aiko and Haruka. Do they ever
Yeah.
explain how he found them?
No.
Oh no, wait. That was actually the scene where he picks out the suit before that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Word.
How do you guys feel about that scene?
Honestly,
I thought it was funny.
solid. The whole part where he smashes a guy's head into a mirror is very much the same Kiryu that would punch a statue to prove a point.
Yeah,
that
So
is
he doesn't give a
the
shit.
most Yakuza 1 Kiryu thing ever, and people will still say he's mischaracterized.
Yep.
yeah, that was a cool scene. But yeah, I think not long after that, he just somehow finds Haruka and Aiko. So Haruka and Aiko are in like I think a library kind of place, and out of nowhere, Aiko goes somewhere, and she just like leaves Haruka in the library. These like masked men come in, and I think that's like the first introduction of like the demons of Shinjuku, whatever they're called. It's a new faction, basically. It's not in the
gang,
games.
yeah.
Yeah. And we don't know what the deal with them is until like later. But for now, it's like a faction that seems to be hunting Aiko. We don't know why. They blow up the library, but before that happens, Kiryu actually somehow finds Haruka and takes her out of there. Aiko sees the explosion and also gets the hell out of there. She thinks Haruka died, like we mentioned. And after that, I think Kiryu takes Haruka to Yumi, and Yumi leaves Haruka in the care of like a maid, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yumi was asking Haruka about something, and then she yelled at her as well. And then Kiryu was
yeah.
like, "Whoa, chill."
Like, where's Aiko actively screaming over it? And it's like,
Yeah.
knowing what we know, what happens in 95, you should have no reason to still hold out hope that your sister
Exactly,
is not an
yeah.
irredeemable twat.
Yeah, that is one thing, but also this kid that just came out of an explosion. Like, I get you're worked up, but like, why are you worked up?
Oh, yeah.
What happens after that?
Wait, hang on. Oh, Wait, I actually have somewhat of the sequencing written down, so apologies if I take a few seconds because again they interspliced a lot of the other stuff. But yeah,
Don't worry.
Kiryu brings Haruka to Yumi. Yumi initially doesn't want anything to do with Kiryu, shows genuine resentment towards him. Nishiki. Oh yeah, Kiryu meets Nishiki to have a drink at Nishiki's family HQ. The whole part where they sit in the middle of a staircase and drink.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and then kind of after the meeting with Nishiki, then Yumi just appears and she says, I think I know where the person we're looking for might be there. So actually, no, Yumi was attacked before this. The whole thing with people with an Osaka accent.
Yeah. Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But they actually did her really, really well in that scene because there was someone that just broke into her car and he was like, oh yeah, don't move. She immediately goes to strangle him like a scene out of The Godfather with Luca Brasi.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And then I think she shoos people away with gunfire while the car is still a wreck, something to that effect. Also, the family that attacked her, of all names they could have chosen, I think it was the Sagawa family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, post that attack, to kind of find out who attacked Yumi and also where Aiko is, Yumi suggests the three of them, so Kiryu, Nishiki, and Yumi, seek out the florist, despite no one apparently being a fan of the guy. So they go over there. Then there's another flashback. Whoop-tip, bloody do. Also, the fact that they refuse to abbreviate Miho as Nishikiyama's sister until like episode 3 or 4, and everyone was like, "Who the hell is this Miho character?"
Yeah.
We technically didn't talk about the fight against Majima, or did we?
We did.
Dear God, there's so much stuff from '95. Okay, we're already at episode 4. Dear God, that's not a good sign. Okay, Kiryu and Yumi go to Osaka, and then Yumi kind of briefly almost gets kidnapped by a bunch of Omi men, and then they drive them to Goda, if I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And Kiryu just stands in front of the van, and they're just all like, "Oh, okay, I guess we'll move."
Oh my God. Also, the moment Yumi is, they kind of take her away, and Kiryu is very casual about it, looking, okay, slowly walks his way over there, stands in front of the car. It's like, oh yeah, there was no chance they were going to drive off at any point in time.
Yeah.
If it was Yakuza 1 Kiryu, though, he probably would have like punched through the windscreen and thrown the guy out of the driver's seat or some shit. That's probably what they would have done.
And then we're invited to strip in a sauna after, or actually before the whole conversation. Show me your dragon.
Show me your dragon, Kiryu.
Totally not gonna be clipped out of context.
Yeah. I do want to just say a little thing.
Go.
I mean, maybe we can say this for later, but I'll just say it while it's still relevant. I do think the way they portrayed Goda in the show is not bad at all, because in the games, he's like very benevolent, like maybe a little too benevolent. In the show, he does feel like an actual, faction boss. And I think they've done it relatively well.
So basically, they talk to Goda, and it becomes apparent that the Omi is missing money, but he still thinks that the Tojo is involved. So Yumi, being Aiko's sister, she even offers to do Yubitsume, so to cut off her pinky to show her resolve in this specific situation. But they basically just promise Goda, we're gonna find the money. He gives them until the end of the day, and Nishiki also helps out with the search at that point in time. And now we have another flashback. Thank you, whoever wrote this and sequenced this. Oh wait, one thing with regards to the cage fights. It's kind of weird that they didn't do that many references to the actual Colosseum fights in the game. But there was one thing. I think one of the first guys that Kiryu has a match against, it looks like he's using Pramuk's fighting
stance. Yes, I was thinking the same thing. That was cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's also this random big dude that just called himself a mad dog, putting aside the fact that he looks nothing like any of the mad dogs we've seen in the series, but I digress. Oh yeah, there's also the part Kiryu technically becomes Mr. Try and Hit Me while trying to raise money for Miho's.
I thought that was sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He calls a whole sign, oh yeah, try and fight me, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh yeah, they're slowly but surely accumulating money. Also, Kiryu actually sparred with Kazama. I feel like Kazama, he's probably one of the best reinterpreted characters here, because he actually acts like a father throughout the entire series.
Yes, that is for sure.
Instead of being like, fuck you, Nishiki, deal with it yourself.
actually looks out for everyone, and even he actively visited Miho when she collapsed from drinking too much champagne. He was like, "Look, go home. This isn't for everyone." Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That was a sweet scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was going to say as well, because I forgot to mention this earlier, I've seen so many people getting mad that like Kiryu disrespected Kazuma and whatever at the start when he's like, "Don't join the Yakuza," and he goes, "No, I will." And here's the thing I always think. So guys, how exactly did Kiryu join the Yakuza in the first place? Was it because he went against Kazuma's wishes?
Yeah, literally.
In Yakuza 0, where he's like, "Kiryu, don't join the Yakuza, it's just filled with hardship and horrible things." And Kiryu goes, "No, I'm joining the Yakuza," and he does.
He even tries to fight him. We just don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like him and Nishiki.
Yeah,
they
he
both
gets
get
his ass beaten.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, at some point after the whole Goda meeting and all of that, Aiko sends a letter of regret post the manga shop explosions, and they're basically saying it's her fault that Haruka died and probably gonna make amends, la di da. And Yumi interprets this as, oh yeah, Aiko and the money are likely gonna be at the spot where their mother took her life. Yumi urges Kiryu not to trust Nishiki at some point. We do see Kiryu and Yumi growing a bit closer over time. It started like genuine
Yeah.
resentment and emotional distance, and then the more they interact, they actually did that in a really good way, rather than the whole romance thing towards the end of 95.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I believe it's at this point where she just says, "Don't trust Nishiki," that we cut to a lot of people in Hannya masks breaking into the florist's hideout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I think
okay,
was one of them
go.
supposed to be a mole, and then she just got shot anyway.
Yes.
yeah, there was someone who was working with the police, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure how he knew at that specific second, unless it was explicitly told to everyone not to say a word unless they're spoken to. He just said, "Oh yeah, so Aiko's over there, right?" Immediately gets shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then then one of the women that was like, "I'm on your side," and then gets shot.
Yeah.
Same thing. Jesus. But I'm not sure why they chose those specific mask designs, because obviously for the whole demon gang, let's just put it that way, they hid Hannya masks, but the mask the Demon of Shinjuku wore was basically the mask that the Nikio Consortium wore in Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was so hyper specific, and it's like, why though?
Maybe that was supposed to be them going, "Hey guys, the Nikki Consortium, see?"
Also, the fact that the demon uses a karambit knife like Jungi in 7 is like a very specific choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're already up to episode 5. Cool.
Nice.
So, ironically enough, it starts off with a scene in 2003 where
yeah.
the Tojo clan number 2 visits the Sayo triad, even though it's never explicitly stated
Wait,
that
it's
the
supposed
Sayo
to be the
triad.
Sayo triad?
I mean,
Yep.
I just base it off of the clothing that they wore, because it does remind me a lot of
the
Yakuza 3 interpretation.
I saw
fact
the
that they're
ponytail. I thought it
speaking-
was Lau Kalong.
They're speaking very broken Chinese.
Right.
Like, or
Ah.
broken Japanese, I should say. Like it's the Yakuza thing of just, hello, I am definitely not Japanese. Smart.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it was. I mean, because obviously they could make an easy call to being the Snakeflower Triad, but I wonder if it was just like, oh, it's just some Chinese people.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Gangsters, obviously, not just
Yeah,
regular
yeah.
dudes off the street. But
I feel
Yeah.
like it was supposed to be a throwback
Yeah.
to the Sayo triad.
Because they kind of went there initially. I thought that Shimano went there because Shimano and the triad making
Yeah.
some amends, but apparently the Tojo clan number 2 named Kanemura went there in the hopes of getting Nishiki killed for reasons that I'm not sure were deliberately explained.
Is Kanimura just supposed to be that obscure Yakuza 4 dude?
I don't think so, but it could be another throwback.
'Cause,
There's
I mean,
a
a
lot
lot
of
of characters-
coincidences like that.
Yeah, probably is
Yeah.
a throwback, because a lot of characters in the show have, like, names from the main series, but aren't supposed to be anything like them.
Essentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
And then entered the demon and killing everyone, which I believe was the first instance of the Demon of Shinjuku appearing. Maybe.
Right. Yeah, I think it is.
No, the end of episode 3.
Oh, is that
Where
at the bar
They
with,
kill,
like, the angry dude?
yeah, they killed, I can't remember his name, Dynamite Indie, Hollywood Indie.
Indeed.
the-
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
the
right.
jackass in the cowboy hat alongside Aiko from the
Right.
95 flashback.
Right.
The moment that I saw that scene in the kitchen where somebody wants to put a hit on Nishiki, Nishiki, and then the demon comes in, I was like, okay, that's Nishiki, isn't it?
I mean, it was pretty evident. Although with the whole Hannya imagery, I felt like they were trying to misdirect. Maybe it was Majima. He's been missing for so long, and they're like, nope.
Yeah, that the whole Majima stuff towards the end was weird.
Imagine
Just
we would end up getting a shirtless fight, and Nishiki just has a Hannya tattoo.
Oh my god. Oh, actually, on
This-
top of that, I like the fact that essentially the only time in O5 where Kiryu explicitly takes off his shirt, it's to try and mend Nishiki's wounds towards the
Yes.
end.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
actually see
yeah.
the ink. That was a cool moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at this point, Kazama tried doing something behind the scenes, like meeting with Yomi, and
Yeah.
oh yeah, he was actually talking to Shimano, I believe, which again, nice nod to them actually knowing each other from the Dojima days.
Yeah.
He goes to Goda while he's playing golf and says, "Oh yeah, the dojo wasn't involved in financial theft, la di da di da." And the suggestion to prevent the war with Yomi winds up being the breaking up of the Dojima family that Nishiki is currently the head of by nature of what happened at the end of the
Yeah.
attacking of the actual Dojima dude. Then we have Sera being pissed off at Shimano, going again. He basically just pulls a sword randomly. I'm gonna disembowel you here because you said I need to close the Dojima family, blah blah.
Yeah.
Very, very impactful scene, evidently.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I think I've seen somebody say that Shimano working with Kazuma is very like off character and all that, but from what I've seen, like from what I remember, it's not that they work together willingly or like we're buddies. It's more like Shimano didn't even want to like indulge Kazuma, but I don't even remember if he did. But yeah, Kazuma just
Well,
wanted.
there was the flashbacks in Yakuza 2 where Dojima's
Yeah,
like,
thank
"Oh,
you.
Shimano,
Yeah.
Kazuma, do this
Yeah.
shit."
Sure.
Yeah. Plus, Kazuma was really involved here because
He was
technically
desperate.
knew also that, but he even knew, he knew Alice, he knew Edgar. He was everywhere with
Yeah.
regards to any event that happened in this story.
Which some of it was explained and some of it wasn't.
Mm,
Oh yeah,
Like, I don't think we ever knew like how he knew Edgar. And
yeah.
like you obviously had like the dinner scene with Ate, Alice, and was Kazuma there? For some reason in my head
I
I
think
remember
so.
Kazuma being there.
I think he was.
Yeah, there was
that-
just he had a hand in a lot of pies.
Yeah.
yeah. Because I remember Alice just dropped by casually when we revealed that a hanko exists or an important item exists. Because Kazama was talking to Edgar while they were eating takeout, and Alice just dropped by. I think that was how they knew each other.
Yeah.
I
And they
think
didn't-
that like I would give that the benefit of the doubt as well, because when you do the sub stories of the games, you find out everybody knows Kazuma somehow.
Oh yeah.
Like you either I don't know, donated to them or like something like that.
I definitely feel like they could have had a little more emphasis on like even just one scene for the casual audience of being like, this is why Kazuma was considered a bigwig. Like we obviously know it's because he used to be the dragon of Dojima.
Yeah.
Which is the last twist, which we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like when he goes to see the Omi and like offers up, like his finger as like recompense, etc., etc. It's like
Mhm.
you get the vibes that he's important, but like for the average viewer, it's going to be a bit weird because you start to think like it's only very briefly mentioned that he used to be Tojo, and then it's like okay, so like is he Omi? Is he Tojo? Like he knows literally everybody. And like
Mhm.
we get like one small mention of like a previous war that obviously he was a part of.
Yeah.
But it's never explained fully in detail. It's like the emphasis on like how important he is as a character that everyone knows is not explored like as well as it should be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like he just needed like one extra scene of just being, hey, he did this, he did that, he's this important, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, they left everything off for the very end, for the reveal. There was like, oh yeah, he was actually a very, very important Yakuza, not just a general Yakuza. And there was so many reveals. They just steamrolled all of the reveals that they were waiting for episodes 5 and 6 to the point where it doesn't feel like anything else happened in episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah. That's probably why I'm struggling to remember episode 3 and 4, to be honest.
Same. The only thing in 3 was the whole, the fight with Majima and the theater square shootout. Also, Majima being very handy with a gun and having that gigantic tongue. Probably the only good thing about that episode. But yeah, on the critical path, Yumi, upon getting that whole note from Aiko, finds her, stops her from repeating that same mistake, and you basically have you have all the tools that are necessary here. And I think somewhere Oh, great, another flashback. Thank you. Right when they find Aiko and they find the money is when Yumi gets a call from Nishiki where he just says, "Did you find the money? Oh yeah, by the way, I have Haruka. Bring me the money or else."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're at episode 6. This is still a flashback.
This is where they
Okay.
show like Nishiki shooting Dojima, or is it in 5?
It's the end of 5.
The end of 5 into the intro of 6. And
Yeah.
then in the current timeline, which is oh yeah, this is a cool one because we cut to Yumi driving like a psycho through Kamurocho.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And then they're kind of stopped around Theater Square, or what would be Theater Square. Kiryu steps out trying to deal with all of the Yakuza that just tell him, "Oh yeah, Nishiki, he's kind of up there, go there." And you
Mhm.
just see a lot of people slowly gathering.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, in the Millennium Tower, the Shimano family just goes there, waits for Nishiki, and as soon as Nishiki arrives, they just say, "Hey, Sarah's orders, you're not in the family anymore, la-di-da." Nishiki just goes, "What the, are you freaking serious?" And then just has all of his Hannya shoot everyone. That was genuinely a cool scene.
Yeah.
Then we have Shimano crashing onto the pavement. Again, really, really cool moment.
Okay, is it just me?
Hmm?
The corpse that fell looked so obviously like a prop.
Yes.
Trying to make sense of my stupid ass notes. Thank God that I actually highlighted some of them before this conversation because there's a lot of stuff that I wrote.
No problem.
Then we have the actual fight between Kiryu and the demon of Shinjuku, which we haven't really spoken about the demon himself all that much, or the incisions that he would have.
Like, that's the thing. Throughout the show, they just show you like, oh, he's such a mysterious killer. He kills people for like who knows why. We never know why until we see who he is, right?
Should
like,
we then do the whole go?
Yeah?
I was gonna say, are we gonna do the whole "why is he now"? And
I mean,
put a
yeah.
massive judgment spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't
Why
think
is he
about
the
that.
unnamed mole?
Yeah,
Judgment is old at this point, let's be honest.
it is. It is. I probably will put a spoiler warning at the beginning just to be safe. Like, I'll
And
type.
everything spoiler for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just
Enter
like
the mole's name with Yagami screaming.
Oh my god! Thank you.
Maybe we already gave this away before, but it turns out the demon of Shinjuku is Nishiki. And why did he become the demon of Shinjuku? Because he doesn't care about people anymore. He wants to kill everybody, take everybody down with him, basically. Like, he's completely gone off the deep end. More so than OG Yakuza 1. With that mindset, you really do see the mindset, the combination between the Nishiki and the Kuroiwa mindset. It's like, okay, like I see what's going on here. But also, there was this plot before, I forgot to mention, where the Tojo was trying to figure out whether or not Nishiki was working with the demon of Shinjuku. But then,
Right.
like we said, it turns out, it is just Nishiki. So, Kiryu arrives at the very top. There's a lot of dead bodies of the Shimano family. And then, there he is, the demon of Shinjuku. He fights with Kiryu. Surprisingly, lands a lot of hits on, or should I say, a lot of slashes on Kiryu. And then the mask comes off, and he's like, "Oh, Nishiki, it's you." Nishiki's getup here is, I swear to God, it's like almost a 1-to-1 with the mole from Judgment.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what to make of it. On one hand, some parts of that whole segment is cool, but then others, I don't know. I think I just wanted to see Kiryu fighting shirtless in that scene. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I think it would have been cool if
Yeah.
I think it would have been cool if the knife was somehow used to like rip the tops off and then reveal the tattoos.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was thinking, because I said this to my brother, what I was kind of hoping would happen is like Kiryu gets all bloody and stuff, and he's like, gotta get this shit off. Throws it off, and then you see the tattoo all covered in blood and whatever.
Yeah.
And then he like disarms Nishiki and he has no knives left, and then they start like having a
Hand to
fist fight and
hand,
stuff.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it felt like that was gonna
Not
be
really.
the build-up, but then it was like, oh yeah, I have more knives, or I just can't drop this particular knife.
Yeah.
He always
Yeah.
has something with him. Like, why?
Okay, one
Yeah.
downside to that whole fight as well. Is it just me? I swear to God, sometimes I couldn't tell who got injured.
Yeah, no, I was about
Also-
to say, yeah, like, I don't know if it was the choreography or whatever, but it's like, when Nishiki stabs himself, I wasn't actually sure what the heck happened. I
Yeah,
know that's
same.
the point,
Same.
but it's like until the character spelled it out, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
Also, half the time it felt like Kiryu was just constantly going in for a hug. Not like he was fighting,
Yeah.
but constantly, come over here. Ah, I stabbed myself. Come over. Oh,
Yeah.
you stabbed yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like getting stabbed in the back twice and still just shrugging it off as if, nah, just poultry knife. wound."
Although I suppose that is pretty accurate to the games. You kind of can
Yeah.
get stabbed 1,000 times and keep walking.
Yeah.
I mean, it brings more merits to the whole I'm trying to pick the perfect suit. Yeah, apparently the perfect suit has 7,000 kilometers of clothing, so you don't get that smashed.
Is there anything else like we want to say about the fight? Because there is something after that I want to comment on.
I feel like it was just half baked.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah,
Like-
just thrown in.
Yeah, I don't know if it needed to be longer because like the bit where he's fighting as the demon in. Can I ask why the heck was his room in the Millennium Tower like a chapel? Why did it have like a fucking like Christianity cross and in the bloody in the darkness it glows and it just looks like we're here for mass prayer. Hello.
Christian
name is
Nishiki,
Nishiki.
let's go.
Yeah.
He is the demon. That's why Evangelion.
You will subscribe to my religious email
mean,
of why Cambridge should no longer exist. Thank
Like,
you.
there was that whole thing with Nishiki just like
Pentagrams.
pentagrams
Yeah.
on the bodies of the victims.
I mean,
Like
to
I
be
sort
fair,
of get it. It was
It's a
probably
calling
like a
card, yeah.
diversion. Yeah.
It's kind of if you really, and I'm probably giving way too much benefit of the doubts to the writers, but how Kiryu idealized the premise of a Dragon of Dojima with the Irezumi, Nishiki, instead of longing for someone else's image, he created one for himself, and instead of having an Irezumi, he just went, oh yeah, the pentagram is gonna be my thing, and he became the demon. But even then, it's like you could have done it better rather than it was I. Anyway.
There was something after the fight that I really, really liked. It's when basically Kiryu gets really upset and like asks Nishiki like, why did he do all of this? And the way Nishiki breaks down, I really like that. Like, what am I supposed to do? I thought that was really well made. Like it
kind of
gave...
reminded me of the. Sorry, go.
No, I was just gonna say it gave like a really genuine heart-to-heart for once between them after all that time.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it kind of reminded me of the exchange at the end of Yakuza 0 with Majima. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do? That desperation, but going more for teary-eyed, genuine, like broken person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to say, Snowiest?
I was just going to say earlier as well, because I forgot to mention this. When they were like drinking on the stairs, there's probably some like cultural significance, just real quick, about that. Like they're both sitting on the same level or something, right in front of each other. I don't know. But
Possibly,
anyway, I was
maybe,
going to say, Nishiki, correct me if I'm wrong, but Nishiki gives Kiryu a hug.
Yes. Yes, he
I
does.
so.
He's like, we're family.
That
Don't
is
be a
something-
stranger. Yeah.
No, like when I played Kiwami 1, I was like, they could have like slightly changed the story, and Nishiki at some point should have just come up to Kiryu and been like, my brother.
Yeah.
Just give him a little hug.
Because there's also the part where both Nishiki and Yumi constantly tell Kiryu, you're the only one that's stuck in the past.
Yeah.
I also like that after the fight, as Kiryu's carrying Nishiki, he has lots of like callbacks and thoughts and whatever about him. And
Yeah, I like
him
that too.
saying like, "Oh, you're a bit of a short fella," and he laughs as it like cuts back to him carrying Nishiki. And something else I've always thought about is obviously in the original he fucking explodes, but like I've never liked how Nishiki dies, and then instantly he's just like, anyway, Yumi, oh god, and then she dies, and he's like, I guess there's nothing left. At no point does he ever go like, looking around for Nishiki or something in the rubble, like, where are you? Yeah, nothing like that. Which is why I liked Ishin as well. When you kill Nishiki and Ishin, he actually like, hears his last words and does the thing, the Resquiak got the pache, whatever the fuck from Assassin's Creed, where like closes his eyes.
No, I also really like that scene where Kiryu carries Nishiki out of the Millennium Tower. I think that is one different thing the show did that really stood out to me. It has like this just tragedy feel to it. Like, where did things go wrong?
I like the thoughts behind it, but there's a reason why I don't like that scene.
Same.
The background music.
Oh,
actually, another reason. For me, it reminded me of the ending of the Tokyo Ghoul anime season 2. I just imagined Unravel playing behind them.
I think I'm probably with Snowiest on this one then, but the music honestly barely stood out to me.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
okay, wait. What's the name of that one song that plays when they're kids and they first arrive at Tenkaichi Street? I hate that song.
I don't know what it's called even. I don't know if I heard it before.
Like it feels like one of those that is so omnipresent in I guess modern media, or at least I had the impression, where it
Mm.
felt like it was a copyright-free track that a YouTuber would frequently
Yeah,
use.
yes. Some of it feels like it's like Amazon has the rights to that song, and they're like, "Oh, you want to use it?" And they went, "Sure."
Yeah,
Shove it
like,
everywhere.
it's that music in that scene where Kiryu's carrying Nishiki that's played like so many times over the last 2 episodes. Just like, you know, the mob boss-esque gangster music. Like, it'd be like if it was the fucking sub-story music from Yakuza, because it was just so
right, right.
used so many fucking times. The one that like starts off like brr, 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 brr,
Oh my God, yeah.
brr, and it's like, oh my God, stop playing this track. Like they play it like 5 to 6 times over like the last 2 episodes. It's like, Jesus Christ, please stop. Please stop.
Also, if that's the track that we're talking about, the same one, it kind of, if you play it on a guitar, it has the same thought process as the ending the sub-story theme in Kiwami.
I was hoping to see in the credits like one of the composers from the Yakuza games or something. I kind of just thought like, why they should 100% should just been like, "Oi, Hidenori Shed, you want to fucking do this?"
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, whatever.
I mean, even Kurohyo used songs from the J-drama used songs from the Kurohyo the game, which in and of
Yeah.
itself also used songs from Yakuza 4 among others. And it's like, just
Nice.
throw them in. It's the easiest way to rile people up. Either play Receive You or something. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, Receive You would have been perfect actually. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what they were thinking.
Especially as like the intro or something,
Yeah.
Is
or
it?
the credits music.
Huh.
Like it would have been good if it used one of those
Oh,
as
Yeah,
that is what I'm saying. Yeah, it
definitely.
didn't.
Speaking of intro, how do you guys feel about the the episode intros, like with the dragon moving and the money and all that?
It's alright. I
does
didn't
the
think
job.
anything of it really.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think that CG dragon was kind of cheap, not gonna lie.
Oh yeah. I mean, I skipped it every time past the first episode, if that's any indication.
Nah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm kind of glad it wasn't some like, cheesy song, etc., but
Hmm.
it didn't really evoke anything. It was just there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Imagine if they called Sim and they just put, "Hey, can you play
Oh.
Sora Okoete as the opening?"
There is something we didn't talk about yet, but while Nishiki and Kiryu are fighting, there's a whole war outside of the Millennium Tower.
Oh yeah.
Oh
there is.
yeah.
So Sera, the head of the Tojo clan, and Goda are both there. They have their men with them. And a Shimano-looking guy comes out from the Omi truck, or the Omi car. And that is
Who
not
I really
Shimano.
thought was Shimano.
Yeah,
at
it's not
first when
Shimano.
We saw the trailers, like, what the heck?
Yeah.
They gave
But-
Shimano hair.
Yeah,
Unrealistic.
yeah.
Bad game.
And-
TV series.
This guy, the Shimano-looking guy, ends up soloing like everybody, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
some Omi like lieutenant of kill everybody with
Some
swords,
random
like...
guy, yeah.
Nah,
That's literally-
that's Ryuji. I'm calling.
Oh no.
But that's the tragedy of it. I wrote it down. They name dropped him when he's arrested by Date. He's named Tsuruta Koji, and he's the second in command of the Omi, so Wakagashira. But
Oh my
that's it.
God.
That's the only thing that they say about
Mm.
him.
Yeah, he's just there.
He at least provides good foil for the reason why they've set that scene up. Because
Yeah.
like obviously the Tojo somehow the Tojo are outmanned on their home turf. Cool. And literally like Sarah goes like, bring him in even though we banished him. And it's like, all right, clearly from 95 to 05, we haven't had a little bit of context here because as fans of the game, we all know who he's talking about. And then he like name drops Majima. But it's like, you banished him? Huh?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, as always, with every piece of Yakuza media, be it the stage play, live action movie by Takeshi Miike, the TV show, Majima turns up, steals the scene.
Yeah.
And turns up with dual wielding baseball bats and just has a fucking whale of a time. Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I think doesn't he say, like, when it's over, he's like, man, I want to go for round 2.
Yeah, I want to do it again. And then you get the one Kiryu-chan, which is just like,
Yep.
Yeah.
it's just there.
Yeah.
It just happens. It's just there. Like,
He's being shoved into a van, and he's like, "Yo, let's do this again, Kiryu.
Yeah.
Please promise me."
She was just like, what the fuck?
like
Who are
literally,
you?
Kiryu's carrying like a dying/dead. Who the bloody hell knows? Nishiki at this
Yeah.
point, and like no one else has noticed it. None of the police, none of the like EMTs, but Majima's just like, "Woo, Kiryu-chan, hell yeah, my
Yeah.
dude."
remembers him after what, like a decade or whatever. Oh yeah, you're that guy whose brother beat me over the head with a plank or whatever.
You essentially are the one that caused me to lose the eye in the first place. Actually, he is.
What's
Yeah.
up, man?
Yeah, true.
I mean, maybe he heard that either Kiryu or Nishiki killed Dojima, and he's like, ah, yeah, we're cool again.
Okay, hold on. Who shot Saejima? Was it Nishiki?
No, it was Alice.
Yeah.
Alice.
Oh, right. Okay.
It
Yeah,
was
'cause-
Edgar's sister. Like, they were chasing her through Theatre Square. She randomly turns around, pops the perfect cap in fucking Saijima's stomach, and he's laughing the whole time, going, I'm dying, bruh.
This is fine.
He also missed every
God.
single shot that he shot, and then the moment Majima turns out, he basically has aimbot.
As they're walking out, Kiryu with Nishiki in his arms, and Majima being taken off by the police. Kazuma is there, Yumi is there, but Kazuma in the battle got slashed on the back,
Oh my
which
God.
reveals that he had the dragon tattoo. Now, how does the episode end? Yeah. Kiryu just looks at the tattoo and looks at Kazuma, and he's
And
pissed as
starts
fuck.
very shaking with
Yes.
rage, and that's
Yeah.
it.
And that's
Show's
how it
over.
ends.
Go home, everybody.
Uh,
I don't like that. And the thing is, it's weirdly on point for the games outside of him being the Dragon and Dojima thing. Like, him, killing their parents, that is actually weirdly on point for the games.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't like the way the TV series did it as a hook for season 2, because as Nishiki's dying / dead question mark still because he gets taken off in an ambulance, he says to Kiryu on the way out after the pacing of the whole Nishiki dying maybe aspect is so weird, because you get the flashback of Kiryu and Nishiki and their scenes in 95, and it's yep, nope, he's dead in his arms, and then at some point in the next moment he's just oh yeah, by the way, Kiryu, about the Dragon and Dojima who killed our parents. Bleh.
Oh, yeah.
literally.
What's happening?
Yeah, true.
It feels like they threw that in there as a season 2 bait. Yes, maybe.
No, everything, including that and the Kiryu-chan and the dragon reveal. It was all just, what do we have left that we wanted to do in the series that we clearly didn't plan out well enough?
Yeah, it
Then
really
poof.
did feel shoehorned, for sure.
Also, the whole thing, I forgot to mention it, but once Yumi and Aiko find the actual 10 billion yen, and that,
Oh, yeah.
or actually no, they give them over to some either Nishiki family goons or whatever, give them
Oh,
the
yeah.
money, they turn
Yeah.
away, and it's oh yeah, the immediate second they turn away, Yumi attacks them, and then someone tries shooting Yumi, and then Aiko jumps in front.
Wait, hold on.
Again,
hold
for
on.
no
Wait.
reason.
Yeah.
Isn't
No.
it that Aiko goes, we're not letting go of this money, and then she starts the whole thing?
No, it's Yumi,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I
could have
at
sworn
that
Aiko
point,
think it was
commented
Yumi.
on the money.
I
I
don't
will say
remember.
I am happy that Yumi at least is a prominent figure and actually does stuff.
Yeah.
And I also like the fact that at the end she keeps her promise to obviously Jingoda and actually gets the respect of the Yomi.
Yes.
I love that scene where she
Mm.
gets out of the van and all the Yomi are surrounding her in the in the middle of the battle, and she just goes to all of them and goes, "Shut the fuck up!"
Yeah.
And then everyone's just like,
It goes
"Well,
mom
okay."
mode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, "All right, yep, you go." Go on, carry on."
Yeah.
I love everyone just
I-
stops. There's 2 armies of people, and it's wait, a random girl with a
Yeah.
bag.
All those people
Everyone's
die,
like,
and then they're
"Pick
just
it up,
anyway.
Yeah, oh.
See you guys tomorrow.
We'll do this again in a year. Don't worry about it.
Same time next week. Sweet. I think Majima will be released by then.
I thought it was funny as well that Aiko does the Yumi thing and dives in front of the bullet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that bit was also so confusing because at first I thought, oh, Aiko's dead, which they put Haruka in the van, sat next to her dying / potentially dead mother. Hello, there's a front seat to the van that Haruka could have sat in, But
Yeah.
it's so weird. And then she gets taken out in an ambulance, and they say very off the cuff, oh yeah, she's still alive, very barely, but she's still alive. After having
Yeah,
her
right.
own little scene of just I'm dying, look at the Haruka.
Realistically, though, Yakuza 1, Kiryu holding Yumi, and he's just like, "Oi, Haruka, look at this. Your mum, mate. She's dead."
Jeez. We need to have a tally for everyone that was taken away by an ambulance ominously, or arrested, or both.
And everyone was not Kiryu, who got stabbed 3 times in the back, would like to point out, and
Yep.
Kazuma, who got stabbed in the back, just for that scene of just, I see it under the suit. The eyes on this this dragon tattoo are fully fixed.
I was
Fully filled
going to
in.
say though, with that thing, in comparison to the games, when Kazuma's dying and he's like, "By the way, Kiryu, I killed your parents," and then Kiryu goes, "Okay."
Yeah.
At least in the show, he's just like, "I'm sorry, you what?"
I
Yeah.
I get why they did it because like the Kiryu in the show doesn't like Kazuma. It's never really fully explained why he doesn't like Kazuma, but he doesn't like
I
Kazuma.
think it's just that like rebellious phase of like
Yeah.
whatever he was going through.
And I guess they like at some point reconcile in 2005. I mean, obviously, they do in 95 because obviously he's his like personal trainer.
Yeah.
After a while, but like, I guess the other question is, why does Kazuma help Kiryu out in those bits? Because he knows what path it's going to lead him down. Like,
Probably making the most of the situation because it felt like Kiryu was adamant on repeating Kazuma's mistakes either way. So the only thing he could do is at least, okay, maybe I can steer him away, kind of be a mentor figure, even if Kiryu doesn't give a shit about it.
yeah,
Who do you think is the worst character in the whole adaptation?
Aiko.
Florist.
Damn, okay.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Ooh, yeah.
The Akai brothers. They're not even in it.
Thank God. I
Don't know who
will
I would
say,
pick.
in terms of that final battle, I did like Majima going up to a guy with a sword with 2 baseball bats and just fighting the guy. That was
Oh,
fun.
that was so cool.
Yeah.
He does the like sword grabbing hit action. That would have been sick if he did that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, with his teeth.
Yeah.
Well, also, I don't think we mentioned it, but I believe Sirik pointed it out on Twitter. In the 95 fight, when Majima just kind of gets ready to fight against Kiryu, he does the thug style
Yeah,
stance.
he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is more callback to the fucking thug style than like any game besides the most recent Majima Gaiden games done.
Pretty much.
Why has he always just got a knife? Put the knife down.
Yeah.
He actually, that was actually a nice touch in the 95 fight, because he's like, random schmuck, puts the knife away. It's like, yeah, I don't need to get serious. Does a fist fight with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say let's talk about the characters, but we basically did as we were talking about the story, right?
I mean, we can briefly sum them up, like how we feel about them.
True. Okay, well, in that case, let's go through the list that we have here. So, Kiryu, what do we think of Kiryu's portrayal in the show?
This is gonna sound stupid. Everything I say sounds stupid. Outside of the 95 bits, what did Kiryu do? Like,
But I'll tell you what he did. Put his hands in the pockets and walk like a badass.
yeah, it's like outside of just like the finale, what did he do? Like,
Yeah.
It kind of feels like they tried writing, like, Kiryu is not the protagonist, but the trio, the alive trio from the orphanage are technically the leading roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I guess, and that's the issue with like any kind of adaptation. Is there's just not enough time to fully explore. But it's like in the games, you fully see why he earns the moniker of the Dragon in Dojima, whereas like here it's just like, yeah, he exists, and then hey, we got a final battle to do. Like he's
Okay.
he's like relevant to like he's central to like all the conflicts, but he doesn't really do much.
Okay, but there's something I really do want to address now that we're here. The whole Dragon of Dojima game, Dragon of Dojima title. Like even in the mainline games, they don't really touch upon it that much. Like that's something that Shibusawa comes up with, like, oh, I'll be the Dragon of Dojima, and then it never gets brought up again until Yakuza 1, where Kiryu is the Dragon of Dojima. If that's a title that Shibusawa came up with, who the fuck called Kiryu the Dragon of Dojima?
I know, literally all of like his actual legendary status is acquired between the end of 0 and the start of 1, and it's like you could have
you
could have just explained that part.
Yakuza 0 is an amazing game, but the more time passes, the more I realize that it is flawed. It does have, some things that didn't really explain. And that's why I also wish for people not to, how do I say? It's not that Yakuza 0 doesn't deserve to be held in high regard. It does. It's an amazing game. Like, I still think it's arguably the best game in the whole franchise. But, like, there are definitely things it didn't touch upon. And, the title is one of those. And there are a lot of plot holes in the games that just never get mentioned again. And I think this is one of them. Like, who the hell called Kiryu the Dragon of Dojima? Because I highly doubt it is Dojima himself, because that dude never really brought up the title. Yeah.
I mean, it can be anyone at this point, because Kiryu rarely, if ever, calls himself the Dragon of Dojima unless it's referring to a cross to bear. But Shibusawa called him that, and then a bunch of random goons knew the legacy, and Ryuji and Jungi technically in 6. It's almost like someone looking at, oh, this is the guy that was very much involved with this huge Yakuza conflict, did this. What the hell do we call him? Apparently he has a dragon Irazumi. Oh, and he was from the Dojima family and returned there. And then someone just threw it out rather than him earning the title. It's like, oh, it's the feared blah blah. Kind of like when they call him Oyagoroshi here. It's like, why would you refer to someone in such a way? Just say, oh, that's that knob that killed his boss.
Yeah. See, because of plot holes like that in the games, there are some things I not necessarily overlook with this live action adaptation. But I'll be like, oh, it's probably the same reason some of the games don't explain shit. It's like, oh, I guess we're just gonna forget about this and move on to the next thing.
Yakuza Zero is like an origin story for Majima and Nishiki, and then Kiryu's just kind of just a part of it, really.
Yeah.
Because again, the legendary status, it's between the end of Zero and start of 1 and all that. Because I've always thought Yakuza 1, it just starts and you're just like, here you go, you're playing as this legendary guy. Everyone fears and respects him. Yeah. He's the number one Yakuza member of this Yakuza family. He becomes the chairman. He's committed a total of 0 fucking crimes, and he's only mean to criminals, and he's a really nice guy. I guess he's strong, but what does he do to be a legend? Nothing.
Exactly. Beat up people.
Yeah. At least in the show. At least in the show, he actually owns the title. He actually owns the tattoo. He doesn't just start with it. He didn't spawn with it in his inventory or whatever. But I was also going to say another thing too is Kiryu gets the dragon tattoo. He's like, look at me, I'm so cool. I got a dragon on my back, all that sort of stuff in the actual games. And then later realizes oh my god, I have to bear the weight of this dragon for the rest of my life. It's such a horrible deed. And I think they also portrayed that very well in the show because he's I want to be the cool dragon. Yeah. And then he goes, I've fucked up.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't even want to go back to Kamurocho.
Yeah. He doesn't even want to go back to the tattoo artist because you see him genuinely crying after a while. It's like, oh, I need to stop running.
Yeah, and as well, the significance of the eyes being dotted in and the color being filled in and stuff like that. How did they not even think to do that as at the end of Zero?
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, true. The tattoo was just there all throughout. Right, well, how do we feel about Nishiki in the show?
I think Kento Kaku portrayed him, especially young Nishiki, very well. For what the TV series wanted to do.
Excellent actor, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah. I also want to say, just before we move off of Kiryu, I don't want this to incite certain comments because there's absolutely going to be certain comments. I think Alex Yee did a phenomenal job. With the
yeah. I couldn't believe it when I heard him.
I was so happy to hear that it was him because I already heard him in solo leveling. And it's like, man, that's some good range.
Perfect. Just such a good job.
No,
Kento Kaku, good actor. I think his portrayal of 95 Nishiki is better than 2005. He becomes very Terminator.
One note,
yes, which I guess is supposed to be the point, but you can look at the Nishiki of the games. You can put passion into that, and I guess it's just the direction that he's been told to go in rather than the actor, because we know from the 95 stuff he can be very passionate. When and his breakdown is so good.
When you said passion, I immediately remember that one scene in the Yakuza 1 dub where he goes, "Who told you to kill her?"
Yeah.
Who told you?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, we have Yumi. I really like Yumi in the show.
Same.
I think she's a massive improvement, but the problem is the massive improvements in the show aren't surprising,
Yeah.
Yumi actually did stuff. There's a few plot lines with her where she, for example, wants to find her sister. And she does also help out Kiryu, and she does serve a purpose, and I really do like that. Is there anything anyone wants to add?
They really... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I realized this the other night, but Yumi, there's the couple flashback cutscenes where she's in, where she has amnesia and shit, and it's not exactly like Yumi. In terms of Yumi being in Yakuza 1 story, she is in 4 cutscenes and then just explodes.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, even the cutscenes that she does have, she's barely a character from...
Yeah, Date's daughter has more story impact than her.
Yeah,
and she's supposed to be the main love interest. She's the main perpetrator of how everything started, and it's just hello, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that I hate Yumi in the games. It's legitimately that I think she should have had more.
Yeah.
somehow.
They expanded on her greatly, which is what an adaptation needed to do. Like,
Yeah.
I think if RGG had the chance to retell Yakuza 1 story, I think they would also put more of an impetus on Yumi.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like the thing about the show as well is that, Kamurocho is a very seedy place, right? It's basically
Yep.
what they call it in the games, the armpit of Japan or something like that. I can't remember.
Something like that.
But there was an analogy like that. And in a place like that, you would think Yumi would basically adapt to that kind of environment very well. So the show reflecting that was really, really good. I enjoyed it. And then we have Miho. How'd you guys feel about Miho?
She was
liked
also
her.
great. Yeah, I genuinely felt sad when she died.
Same.
Yes.
Same.
One thing I liked is that she constantly was like actually happy despite everything going on. Like she obviously like spiraled in her own way when she was like having too many drinks, getting too much into the cabaret life.
hmm
But I like that she was always trying to be positive and always wanted the four of them to stay friends. Like
Yeah.
I think that was very good. I think that was like well portrayed and just
Yeah. And again, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, unlike Yumi, or like we joke like, oh, she's not a real character, whatever. Miho or Yuko, whatever her original name was legitimately not a character in the original
Yeah.
Kiwami.
Yeah.
It was the one thing that I was super excited about potentially with the TV series. You'll have heard us talk about it like in the build up was just the chance to expand on Nishiki's sister so we can get a bit more out of
Mhm.
characters. They did a great job. They really
Yeah.
did. I know I joked on Twitter about it. I wish she wasn't in this show, but that was just a joke.
Yeah.
I have to point that out to everybody who's going to be in the comments being like, "Do you say you wish she wasn't in the show?" Yeah, it's called being British. I'm sorry. My humor is dry.
True, very true.
Sarcasm doesn't exist to some people, apparently.
Yep.
Something I will also say about Miho before we move on, I really, really do like the portrayal of being, this cheerful character despite having a grave situation.
She didn't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I would say she was oblivious or just kind of ignorance is bliss kind of a character, I guess, but she came off that way. Where, she just wanted her friends to be happy and she really didn't want to impose upon the others. And, that just made her death all the more sadder for me.
Yeah.
Same. I mean, she basically just kind of, when Yumi sets out to find Aiko at one point, Miho just drops into the bus and she's like, "Hey, where are we going?"
Yeah, that was
true.
really sweet. Yeah. All right. Aiko.
Irredeemable piece of shit.
I mean, we did dog on her for the majority of this,
Yeah,
so it's like,
sure,
inconsistent
sure.
writing. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think Aiko also could have been written better. Like, don't ask me how at the moment. I don't have any notes on her, but yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
Haruka.
it was.
Oh,
I was just gonna say,
go
real
on.
quick, it was cool to finally do the Yumi sister plot, but actually her being a real sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was cool, but I don't know what the direction, what like the point of her personality and shit was. It was very strange.
Yeah. What about Haruka?
Not a character.
Yeah, she's Yakuza 5 Haruka. She's kind of there. Got him
Actually, good
roasted.
point.
Yeah.
She plays the role of the kid. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The way I would put it as well is like she didn't really have a reason to do much. She is just a kid.
yeah, because it's different to how she is in the main game. Because like obviously we think for most of the original game that Haruka is Yumi's niece.
Mhm.
But like knowing that it's Yumi's daughter and Kiri feeling this special connection and shit like that, that's like kind of the whole of her in the original. And then in this, because it's Aiko's daughter, he's just like, I'm fucking who you go away.
Yeah. And also the fact that in the game, she has the medallion that's worth 10 billion.
Yes.
Yeah, that also put a lot of stock and importance on her.
Yeah, but now it's like, oh, she might know where the 10 billion yen is because it's her mum, and like that's it.
Yeah. All right. What do we think about Kazuma in the show?
Massive improvement. Again, an
Yeah.
actual parental figure for once.
I feel like Kazuma is like, how do I say? A lot of the other characters people will either say similar things on or whatever, but I feel like Kazuma, I think I've seen being among the more divisive characters. People either say he's really good or he's like just a weak character in the show.
He definitely feels like he's written like how they tried to write him in the original game.
Yeah.
Of being like this,
A parent
like
figure.
he's a Yakuza, he's scary, he's powerful, but he's like really calming, caring, and all that sort of bullshit.
Mm.
And then he just like wasn't in the original.
Right.
Because I mean, again, like him just sort of abandoning Nishiki and just being like, yeah, go deal your own shit. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then like there's the whole like background plot and whatever of like, oh, let's get Kiryu to be the 4th chairman of the Tojo clan. But you, Nishiki, I'm literally going to let your sister die. I don't care.
Seeing scenes like, Kazuma with Miho, that was amazing. I love that so much. I can't remember right now if he interacted with Yumi in the show as well, but, he basically had a lot of, like, paternal scenes in the show compared to the game, or games, where, like, yeah, he interacts with Kiryu, but that's about it. You don't really see him interact with anybody else. But in that same vein, I think what I think would have been cool for the show is if they had a scene like, you guys remember Infinite Wealth Arakawa?
Yeah.
If they had some kind of a flashback like that for Kazuma in the show, that would have been really cool.
Indeed. Because, yeah, he is, like, still, even in the show, like, the legendary assassin sort of thing, but now it's like he's the legendary dragon of Dojima.
Yeah, I think maybe a scene like that could have cemented everything you would have wanted to know about how important this guy is. Okay, now this one. I think most people don't like Shimano. I will say, they kept the fact that he's angry all the time.
Yeah, personality-wise, he's kind of the same, but why does he have hair? Like, it's just the simplest thing.
I really thought, like, in the trailers, the only guy with the sword, the second in command, was Shimano, because he looks like Shimano and has a tattoo like Shimano.
Same.
Yeah.
So, who's this dude who's supposed to be
like-
Shimano?
Sega, RGG, I don't care what you think Shimano's most defining feature is. I don't think it's the tattoo or
It's
his
the bald
size or
head.
anything. It's the bald head. Yes.
It's
And the
literally, yeah.
eyebrows.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
bushy eyebrows.
What about Majima?
King.
Steals the show yet again.
Yeah, I think for
Although
the...
not fully, because like they didn't really use him that much. Just for like essentially free scenes.
Here's the thing about Majima. I feel like if they overused him, it would have been like very, very blatant and obvious fan service. I feel like the way they did it
Yeah.
was good.
I kind of like that there wasn't a fight between Majima and Kiryu, and like
Yeah.
if they do get a season 2, which I'd be very surprised if they do,
Mhm.
that's an easy thing you can have as a plot point in season 2 is Majima
Yeah.
versus Kiryu.
Yeah, agreed.
There's also that moment when they're fighting in 95 where I think basically Majima has that whole moment like in Zero where he just casually snaps away the gun from Nishiki. Here it's like, oh yeah, 2 against 1, no problem. Just pounces them around, no issue. Almost tries to poke out Kiryu's eye while they're on the fence. And
Yeah.
then just casually gets hit over the back after trying to do the same thing to them. It's like, well, that's
Yeah.
not fair. Collapses.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Oh, by the
I
way,
think I said there as well that they didn't fight. I meant in 2005.
right.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
By the way, if you remember that fence thing you were talking about, was that a reference to Hayashi? Like when he just like punches into the...
Ooh.
Remember that?
Huh. Yeah, I remember
Yeah, I
it.
didn't
Because they
think so.
removed the fence in Kiwami too, the bastards.
Yeah, maybe it's just coincidental.
If there is a Hayashi reference, okay, I keep on asking this. What's with RGG's obsession with that man? I feel like he's so
Right?
irrelevant, and he just keeps on reappearing. He's in Dead Souls, he's in Nation, or the original. He's in 2, Kiwami 2. Like, right.
Yeah.
Maybe he will finally come back, playable and all, in Yakuza 9.
Oh, for God's
He's
sake.
gonna rebuild the Tojo and the Omi alliance.
All right, Saejima. We pretty much talked about Saejima, but
What's a lovely smile.
bro, I legitimately adore the smile.
Dude looks like he's high every millisecond of his screen time. There's that one part where
Yeah.
I think both Majima and Saejima are trying to look for... Oh my god, wait. I think I wrote down the description of it. I'm not going to be able to find it. But in the midst of Majima and Saejima, and at the same time Kiryu and Nishiki looking for Alice, there was that scene when they went to a hotel or something, and they're just casually asking the dude, like, come on, give us every single key you got.
Yeah.
And I think the hotel... No, okay, first Saejima pulls out a gun. Then the hotel owner pulls out a minigun or whatever, or actually not mini, a tiny pistol.
Little pistol, yeah.
Yeah, and then Majima just pulls out a knife and it's like, okay, how are we gonna do this?
2
against one, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the whole part where Kiryu and Nishiki are just standing in a doorframe looking at everything happen to see Alice run past them while some random cleaning lady is like, what the hell are you doing in this doorframe? And she's like, she's there.
Yeah.
Who wrote that?
It was very strange. I was going to say as well, it's like a super nerdy thing to point out, but it also might be a pure coincidence the guns that they actually like, the pistols that they actually use in the show are like the same fake ass guns that they use in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
There's like the same models, and so I
Yeah,
don't know if it's a pure coincidence, but I don't know.
That is pretty nice, yeah. Is there anybody else you guys want to comment on? Because there's a lot of like characters in general, but apparently Kashiwagi was in an episode, but I don't know who the fuck he was supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't
Huh?
really
Yeah, it's like in the
know.
credits or something.
Yeah. I s-
Really?
yeah.
Was he eating noodles or something?
I don't
Probably.
know. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess in terms of like important characters, we spoke about Reina and we spoke about the florist and how don't like the florist in this
Yeah.
like TV series.
I really liked
Um,
Reina. She was chill all the time.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, same.
majestic.
Yeah.
We haven't actually spoke about Dojima. I actually
yeah.
think he does a better job than Sohei. Like Sohei is supposed to be like a bit of a creep, like little
Sleazy
rat
guy.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
past his prime.
yeah. Whereas this Dojima is calculating. Like I'm not saying Dojima isn't in like Zero and well, I guess you don't really see him in K1 because he's dead.
Yeah.
I see his corpse.
Yeah.
Ah.
But in Zero, like he has these big grand plans. They all unravel. Whereas like this Dojima feels like he's more in control. and he
Yeah, I
doesn't
was
need,
gonna
like, his
say, like,
lieutenants.
honestly, Zero Dojima doesn't feel that calculating if you compare him to the show Dojima, because in Zero, most of the work is done by his henchmen.
Yep.
And he does have a henchman that he relies on that becomes Nishiki's henchman in the show. Suga, I think his name is.
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
forgot
I
his
think
name.
he's like pretty good.
Yeah.
Every 5 seconds, like Suga, tell him to shut up.
Yeah. But I don't know. I quite like Dojima in the show.
Same.
And I love his like kind of like final scenes. Just he doesn't really think Nishiki's gonna shoot him. He's like, do it. It'll change your life. And then Nishiki's just like, I bet.
But yeah, boom.
And his face is just like, wait, what? It
Oh, he's
feels
actually
like he was
shooting.
Just yeah,
Yeah.
just shoots dead and oh.
Yeah.
The show does a very good job of making you like realize how much of a scumbag like Dojima is like
Yeah.
in all the scenes.
Mhm.
And like, but also how important he is. Like, I
Yeah.
think if it was the Yakuza game portrayal of Dojima, I don't think it would work as well as as it does in the TV show, because like
Mm.
I think that kind of character archetype would not do as well for someone that you're supposed to think has a lot of respect of like other people, etc.
Did anybody
no, I
else
quite
get the
like it.
same feel? The Dojima actor gave me a like heavy Riki Takeuchi vibes.
Kinda,
Ooh,
yeah.
Good one.
Like I don't know if he was doing it on purpose, but he just came across that way. For those who don't know, Riki Takeuchi is the actor for Amon no Yakuza 0.
It might be kind of the archetype that they go for in movie adaptations that have something to do with Yakuza.
Maybe.
Because it
Yeah.
does feel like a very specific writing. It's just that, I mean, Alano really owns that, so it's kind of easy to associate it with him.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the direction. So, if we talk about the pacing of how everything went, I think we all have problems with the pacing, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I think my biggest issue is something we already talked about, but the cuts between 1995 and 2005 sometimes feels like it was done to its detriment. I do wish, again, like, first 3 episodes 1995 and then the rest was 2005. But also, like Snowiest said, maybe there was something to consider, which is like if they showed 1995 and there's 3 whole episodes of Kiryu without his suit, that might upset people. Right, well, is there anything in particular you guys would like to say about the pacing? Let's start with Froob.
Just I feel like it was working to its detriment at certain points. It's unironically, again, episode 5, which is probably the one I like the most, where they focus just a lot on 1995 because it's the big kind of reveal that Kiryu wasn't the one that killed Dojima, blah blah blah, and just it's really focused, and like it felt like you were able to get a lot more invested because you had the Mio death scene leading into the Dojima stuff. Just I wanted it to be more focused. Like that's all I got.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. What about you, Gokudoni?
Similar thing, because I feel like I pointed out before. Usually, when I see a story that has far too many jumps from one timeline to the next, again, example being God of War Ascension, a very non-linear story, because there was someone who did a re-edit of that particular game's story, and they put everything in the order that it was supposed to happen in. And upon watching all those cutscenes, it felt like this feels like a nothing story. So I feel that either because in this particular TV show, they didn't know how to transition from one scene to the next while maintaining intensity levels. So that was why they could have implemented either an alternate timeline to keep you on your toes, or just because it was, well, we know O5 wasn't written as well as 95, so we need to kind of maintain viewership and interest in what happens. But also, there's the fact that they put off so many reveals until the very end. It felt like they were still dependent on viewership or whatever. It's like, we need to have people keep watching, but it doesn't make sense because you released it in 2 batches. Either way, yeah, not a fan of it.
Yeah. What about you, Snowiest?
Well, bit of a potentially controversial opinion. I really didn't find it that hard to like keep things in order when I was cutting between stuff. I didn't have trouble keeping up with it.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, especially as well, like every time you like, because some people say it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm looking at 2005 or 1995. That shit's pretty obvious. It literally tells you.
Mexico filter.
Yeah. But one thing I will say though, with the like pacing and stuff, is that obviously there could have been things of like, oh, you need to make it 6 episodes, and they need to be this length. There are some shots that just like hang for way too long, and like there's pauses in dialogue and stuff like that. And obviously it's all, you know, maybe the director likes that sort of stuff and feels more natural if there's longer gaps and a bit more like stillness to everything. But yeah, it'll just be like someone, like in one of the fight scenes or something like that, someone puts their fists up and then they go to fight, and then they're just standing there for like 30 seconds. And it's like, are you loading or something like that? Like, what's going on? That's the sort of pacing problem that I have.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But in terms of like pacing of story beats and stuff like that, like I don't know. It, like, obviously it could have been better, but I just didn't have that much of a problem with it.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Yeah. Right. And how did we feel about the action scenes? Personally, I think, how do I say? I'm not saying like flat out just, you know, 1-to-1 copy the heat actions and all that, but I do think one of the main attractions of Yakuza is also like the fighting, and trying to, like, Froob also brought a good point earlier where there should have been, or, you know, like visceral fighting is a good thing, and the show could have benefited from that as well. But I do think putting a bit more emphasis on maybe not like the action, but the camera angles of some of the shots could have gone a long way. And at times, I do feel like there wasn't enough action going on. Just like there was some back and forth, like, you know, what do we do now? Oh, okay, let's go talk to that person. I mean, you know, that also happens in Yakuza. But I don't know, I feel like somehow good action sequences could have potentially saved, or, well, in quotes, saved this show from being just outright horrible for people. What about you guys? Let's start with you, Snowiest.
Yeah, well, as I was saying before, like some of the fight scenes were kind of weirdly choreographed and directed and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did say though that there is definitely stuff like that in Yakuza where it's just there's just massive periods of just no action whatsoever.
Yeah.
Even in something like Judgment, which I absolutely love, there's parts of that game where it's just you're just talking to people for like an hour straight.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing really that's happening.
Yeah.
It's all like interesting and stuff like that. But I reckon, like a massive appealing factor of what makes Yakuza are its heat actions and how it's like a mix of like street fighting, dirty, that sort of stuff, and like proper martial arts and whatever. And yeah, there really was none of it. I put the clip in the chat before of Kiryu catches someone's leg like 3 times and then does nothing from it, and the whole time I wanted him to do that Yagami heat action.
Yeah.
Like just something a little extra shows. Like obviously he's not supposed to be a legendary fighter when he's like earning the title just yet, but just something to show that he does know how to fight. Yeah, I don't know. There really wasn't that much action, which is, I don't know. That like that's the main thing that draws me into the Yakuza games, at least, is the cool action.
What about you, Gokudoni?
I agree for the most part. The only thing that I would add is that it feels like all the effort that they wanted to put in choreographing the fights more so went into the ones that felt like they needed to last a bit. Like, for example, the fight against Majima, or the entire theater square fight, or the fight against
the Colosseum, the last
demon.
fight.
Yeah, also that. It felt like, well, with the exception of maybe in between Coliseum fights. That's probably
Yeah.
the only part where it felt like, why are we showing this to this extent? Why is there a capoeira fighter of all things here?
Yeah.
That type of stuff. But
Mm.
while the vast majority of the important scenes did get at least enough time, even if the impact wasn't there, I feel like because of that, looking at the other fights, like for example, when Kiryu immediately exits jail and is attacked by Shimano goons, the fact that a number of the fights in between that and basically the finale of the series are succinct, where it's like, I don't have time for this, just does one heat action and ends it, actually does kind of benefit what they're trying to do, because you
Mhm.
don't want to put the spotlight onto a random goon that has no relevance to the story. You want it,
Yeah.
if you have a choreographer on the clock, you want to save their efforts for something that's more meaningful to the story.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Right. And what do you think of the action scenes for?
Yeah, I've pretty much said all I need to say. I feel like it's a bit too clean.
Yeah.
I agree with what both Snowiest and Gokudoni have said.
Right. Right.
yeah. Throw in a traffic cone every once in a while. Come on.
And a bicycle.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, no,
Actually,
not a
that-
single bicycle use.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will say I did whoop when Nishiki grabbed the sign on the street and hit that guy in the back with it.
Yeah,
So I was
at least
like,
there was
he's
that.
doing
Oh.
the Yakuza thing.
Nishiki's the protagonist now.
Yeah,
I mean, literally.
and then got beat up by Majima and Zoro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think if they had a scene or multiple of showing heat, would that be too much?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, like it. I think so. Here's the issue that I have as a whole with the show. I think it's a budget problem because
it
like
is.
Yeah.
they obviously stick in Theatre Square because that's the only part of the set that they can recreate.
Yeah, I did want
Yeah,
to talk
so-
about that too.
I really feel like if they tried to do the heat stuff, it would come off looking worse than live action Takeshi Miike adaptation Nishiki, who looked like he was on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
So I'm kind
Well,
of glad they
it-
didn't.
One thing that they could have done at the very least is like I don't know exactly how you do it, but just like have Kiryu like steaming. You know, there's like a big bright light shining on him,
Yeah.
and then there's just, like steam coming from him, like the heat.
Mm,
But they didn't even do that. I mean, he sweats a lot.
yeah.
Could have just been like, oh, look at this, he's getting so hot and sweaty. Ooh, it's steaming.
Ooh, it's the sweat aura. Ooh, so impactful.
Yeah, literally.
When looking back at the 2007 movie, there was also just that. I mean, right before I think Kiryu in that movie gets heat, he does just drink his stamina, right?
Yep. Yeah, he
Yeah.
does.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like that was like very, very fan servicey.
Yeah, actually, just real quick, I don't know if this is like we were planning on bringing this up at all, whatever,
Uh-huh.
but
Go on.
I'm dead set so sick of people now suddenly pretending like that movie is like a perfect one-to-one
Same.
recreation.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
like,
Same.
Thank you.
Same.
I mean,
Legitimately,
look
I feel
back
like
on the
all it
reaction.
is. Yeah, it's just nostalgia.
New equals bad.
Yeah, it's literally that. Okay, to add on to that, you know how people will say the only reason you're praising anything new by RGG is because you're recency biased? I
Uh-huh.
could say, in a comparable tone, say the only reason why you're elevating the older releases above this is because you're nostalgia biased. Both of
Literally,
these
yeah.
statements are as ridiculous as the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You
like
don't like
ironic.
things.
Yeah. How dare you like things?
Yeah.
Especially things I don't like.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because I've like seen a bit of that as well. Granted, I did see some, reasonable people that did just admit, like, yeah, they like the old movie, and that's all there is to it. They don't like the new one, and fair enough. But like, it's just whenever people get a little personal, when it's like, okay, bro, like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
It's like it is an enjoyable one, ironically or otherwise. But to elevate it, it's like the whole thing when, like for example, the majority of us here enjoyed Dead Souls, but we're not gonna pretend like once Dead Souls released that everyone loved it and it was a passion project or whatever. We
Yeah.
look at the public reception to both of these things, either the live action or this. You will see people seething over it, as
Yeah.
they did something like American Shirt Kiryu in the DLC reveal for Dead Souls.
Yeah. Again, it
Yeah, and-
just... Yeah, go on,
Yep.
sorry.
just a perfect example, because I mean it happens in like every community, but especially the fucking Yakuza community, man. New equals bad. I spent like 4 years defending Yakuza Like a Dragon, and then Infinite Wealth comes out, and suddenly everybody loves it.
Yeah,
Like, what do you mean?
That.
I mean, I guess this is asking too much of people in general, but I just do wish that we understand that there's nuance to stuff like this. Like, yeah, sure, you don't like something, fine. I like this thing, okay. Like, you don't need to make it a bigger deal than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, gotcha.
And again, we're not even saying this show is a masterpiece. I mean, Snowiest likes it, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not out here saying, okay, viewers, like, unsubscribe from this, like, phony.
Yeah, no, because I like it, it means one, I hate anyone who doesn't like it apparently, and two, I made it. That's why I'm really defensive of it. Like,
Oh,
what do
don't
you mean?
forget, you're getting paid by Sega to defend it as well.
Yes, that's another thing too. Yes, and I'm
Oh,
also
yeah.
doing a collaboration with Young Yeah, and I'm fucking doing all sorts of shit. I just play video games.
Getting back on topic, is there anything about the dialogue in particular that you guys would like to talk about? I guess technically, when we talk about the characters, we also are talking about the dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I will say some of my favorite dialogue has actually been between Kiryu and Yumi. Like
same.
there's that one part when they're in an elevator. She just says, "Clearly, you haven't changed as much," and he responds something to the effect of, "If only jail was so romantic as you pointed out to be."
Oh
Something to
yeah,
that
yeah.
effect. Or the whole when they're eating dinner together and you see them slowly kind of break away from the emotional distance, actually open up to one another, and then lead up into the whole when she's carrying him moment. Those aspects felt like they were adequately paced. It felt like they genuinely she had resentment towards him because he broke his promise, and he still cared because they all grew up together and still felt responsible.
Yeah.
That was actually well conveyed.
Yeah, definitely agreed. And something I did mention before as well is just the fact that this is a show. It gives a lot of room for, characters like Miho and Yumi to interact with Kiryu and Nishiki and Kazuma. And their relationship together feels much more organic and natural. I do like that. I also will talk about some of the camera work and the lighting. I think they nailed the colors in this show. Like, it feels very Kamurocho-y, for lack of a better word. Like just, the neon lights, the blue and red, and sometimes the smoke. I really like all that.
Yeah, it was
though
very color coded. Like the
Yeah.
95 stuff was like a bit more like yellow, and then like the
Yeah.
2005 stuff like was a bit more blue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, it's very much like the games in that respect.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's just like a standard J drama thing, because like the Yakuza games are just so obviously inspired by that sort of genre of film and TV show and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so like it coming back in its own sort of way, whatever, coming full circle, that's the sort of thing I was thinking of like Yakuza Kiwami 2 has a green filter. This final battle has a very blue filter. Here you go. It's just a camera filter. It's just there.
I was gonna say I can't wait for season 2 to have the green filter.
Hell yeah.
I
Let's
mean,
go.
to be fair, K1 was also pretty green in spots, so
It was.
I can expect someone being like, "There's not enough green in this adaptation."
Right. So generally speaking, what pet peeves do you guys have with the show? Anything that might have annoyed you more than other people? Like I know, for example, the song choices for some of you. Yeah.
Same. Just
Every
any
licensed
westerns.
song.
Yeah. Well, okay. To be fair, I didn't notice the non-Western licensed songs, and I feel the need to point it out this way because the song choices for the ones that we recognized to me felt like we were trying to make an ironic adaptation.
Yeah.
Whereas I wonder if I would have had the same reaction had I known again, let's say the Japanese licensed tracks. Would I be like, "Oh, I hear this everywhere. Do you really think that's a good choice for this?"
Mm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Hello, Reddit. Japan exists. It's a different country to the one you live in. I was saying that on my recent stream because I was playing through Ishin Kiwami and I got a copyright claim for a cutscene talking between Ryoma and Oreo.
Fun fact, that never used to
bridge.
copyright claim you until Ladition came out.
What?
That's epic.
Why?
Yep.
Well,
for
'cause
some
there's
reason,
like a-
86 Key or whoever the composer is they went back and they started like claiming for that specific song.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Well,
Yeah,
there was it was a cutscene and it was like a little piano ballad thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I
That's
just
the only
thought,
time
like,
it happens in the main story.
yeah,
And-
if it's like some sort of like popular song or something like that, because obviously I don't know. I can just imagine a Japanese player playing through that and being like, "Man, this fucking song, I'm sick of hearing this and shit." And now it's here in this game, and like we don't experience that.
Yeah, I
the
do
issue is
wonder.
episode fucking 3 of having a really bad Mad World cover fucking twice during scenes that are supposed to be massively serious, like, Yumi and Aiko's mother like walking off to suicide. I'm just sat like, it's fucking Mad World. Like,
Yeah, but
You have
the
a
thing
scene
is though, is
straight.
that like in Japan, they're probably like, "Oh, this is sick."
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
I was gonna
it's
say like most of the covers we hate when it comes to like the licensed music in the franchise. I feel like most of them have English lyrics. Like for example, I know "Sim" by A is like a Japanese song, but it does have quite a bit of like English lyrics. And then there's also "The Sound of Breath," and then there's okay, this one might not be hated as much, but that one track in Gaiden by the intro
yeah,
track, I forgot its name.
JID and
JID.
Yeah, I think the first reveal of that had mixed reactions. But then you do have something like "Fading Away," which everybody loves.
Yeah.
that's a
The-
perfect song.
The thing with the Sim song for me is the fact that it starts off like very rock and just screams abracadabra. If it started off like that song in a different way, I'd be a lot more favorable to it. Like, it's just the way that starts, and like the other issue as well is the bias towards what you've heard before, because I'm fairly certain most of us played Yakuza 2 before K2, and hey, Crazy Ken, really cool, really good. And then you get this just and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
The ironic thing is, I played K2 first, and playing through it, I was like, this is a strange song choice. And I usually listen to some bands that have that edge to them, for lack of a better word. But when I was like, okay, I remember what the random encounter theme in Sotenbori is. This isn't the logical next step for me. And then you go to 2, and it's like, jazzy. Yeah,
Yeah.
this feels like a natural extension of it. I don't know. It's more so that's misplaced, because in the last bouncer mission, it works like a charm, but not as the opening of your
Yes.
credits when you think a bomb exploded.
Yeah.
I
fully
I
agree.
hate that I have to point this out, but just for those like who don't know, those Kiwami 2 tracks were implemented when Nagoshi was still there, so
You have to have a light that says yes, Nagoshi was still present, and then
Yeah.
just have it go on and off whenever we talk about anything.
yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, just to defend myself real quick, I don't like Mad World either. However, I was going to say, yeah, that is a massive thing in the Yakuza games, is them always using like licensed tracks, and also just them being misplaced. Just think about, we haven't mentioned so far, the end of Yakuza Like a Dragon, it's like, holy shit, he's dead, I'm going to cry.
Oh,
And then it's just like a cheery ass song by Shonen no Kaze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
jeez, no.
I have always wondered, like, you guys do bring up a good point about like the Japanese licensed songs and how the community there feels about them. If we do have like any Japanese viewers, please do let us know. Like, we are curious about this. Like, when it comes to
You're
specific,
like Mad World.
yeah,
Well, actually, to add on to that, one instance where I actually didn't like a Japanese licensed song, it's spoilers for Yakuza 5 for Shinada's part. Please
Uh-oh.
skip away, because it's an amazing fight. But the one where Shinada and Daigo go at it, and my choice of words is very poor here, considering the song is called Wild Romance. But that one, I like Kyosuke Himura, I believe that's his name. He also sang with Gospels of Judas. But that song was woefully misplaced for me in that particular scene. And then listening to the actual Western version, it's like, okay, this works. Rocky track. Yeah.
yeah, fair
That
enough.
Western theme is so
That's
good.
a good point that I want to like point out. If RGG carries on with porting the rest of the games to Switch, and they also have their licensed tracks recovered, like in Kiwami,
Yep.
that's going to be an interesting one.
I wanted to ask you guys, did you get any copyright stuff with Kiwami licensed tracks on the Switch? Because I didn't.
Actually, no.
Same.
I shouted over all of it.
Didn't
Audio
upload
jungle.
any of it.
Audio jungle.
Dude, watch, after we upload this, we get like copyright strikes or notices or whatever.
All of our channels disappear.
You mentioned the name, how dare you?
Yeah. But if they did
I'm-
lift it, I'm glad.
I'm excited if Yakuza 4 comes to the Switch and people are like, yeah, let's play the game. What the fuck is this song?
No.
Oh, God.
I utterly despise that song. Genuinely. No.
Yeah.
Right, well, where were we?
Pet
yeah,
peeves.
pet peeves, yeah. I think I already, asked you, right, Froob?
Yeah, I hate Mad World.
Right. Okay. What about you, Gokudoni?
Same, because you can tell on my channel that I'm a huge music nut, and that's basically my second biggest hobby. So when I see something that sticks out this much, and when it's a song that's been misplayed so many times as a memeable track, I just felt like someone was, had the spoon against my forehead and just gently knocking into it over and over and over again. Anytime those songs played, and it's like, can we please move on?
All right. What about you, Snowiest? Anything that annoyed you?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. It's again related to the music, but
Right.
just how there's like no songs from the game at all. Not just like they just chucked in "Funk Goes On" or something like that, but
Yeah.
no like remixes or anything. Because I was sort of thinking like, oh man, it'd be so cool when Majima Kiryu fight. It just plays at least like the first 3 notes of "Receive You the Prototype." That like doom
Right.
doom
Yeah.
doom like that shit.
Yeah.
And then it like goes into whatever theme they want.
Mhm.
They didn't do anything like that, and that was really something I was hoping for. And then the other pet peeve is just how the episodes were released, but that's just like a Amazon thing.
Understandable.
It's speaking of music for the pet peeve, real quick. I said it earlier again. The background track that sounds like it came from a goddamn mafia movie that they kept using multiple times in the last 2 episodes. Like they lost creativity on the music at some point and just were like, okay, keep using this one. It's clearly Nishki's theme. Like he's doing evil stuff. Play it. He's dying in Kiryu's arms. Play it.
I can
The
imagine
end of the
just
show. Play it.
someone turned on the sprinklers and it was like, wait, we lost all the master tracks to the music we used. What's left? The one song. Oh, damn it.
On the other side of things, let's talk about things we liked about the show. Actually, wait. Before we do that, I don't think I mentioned anything from my end with pet peeves.
No.
This is something I mentioned like probably 3 times by now. It's just, I think, mainly the jumps between 1995 and 2005. Otherwise, there's nothing that really like ticked me off so much, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Things we liked about the show. Let's start with you, Froob.
I like the set design. I know I said, they only really used Theater Square. I do quite like the them being housed in that bathhouse. I think that was like kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, set design I quite liked. You could kind of tell the Omi Alliance building was just a random building they got permission to film in because it had like the actual like building name on it, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the set design did a very, very good job. I do think the 95 stuff did just enough to differentiate itself from the 2005 stuff. Like, it's a dumb thing, but Kiryu wearing Reebok tracksuit is like, yep,
Right.
that's very 90s. Reebok was like
Mm.
very huge back then.
Yeah.
Very Slavic.
Yeah. I do think they got the vibe right for the fair bit of it. I think they got the vibes right.
Yeah.
I did quite like how like certain actors and actresses actually like interact with each other. Again, the main 4 I quite liked. Yeah, I'll let you all have a go.
Right. What about you, Gokudoni?
For the most part, I've pointed out the things that I like with regards to character writing or some of the more notable fighting scenes or general exchanges. The only scene that I would like to add in that regard is that at the beginning you have the whole introduction of the orphanage kids in 95 that they're just delinquents stirring up some stuff, and it's by nature of the whole thing where Nishiki pretends to be like a worker at the arcade, and then this random dude shooting him, and then Kiryu busts in the door. It feels very Kurohyo, but then at the same time, it's just teens that don't know better, just causing shit, and then driving away maniacally. It felt like, yay, nice. It's reminiscent of some of the gang violence that would then permeate in 05, but not as unhinged. It felt like a nice way of showing the more gang-related side of Kamurocho slowly coming further to the surface. That's about it.
Can I just mention the guy that missed like 5 shotgun shells point blank?
Oh yeah! Oh my god, that's the strongest stable ever. Not a single. It was just there.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. You probably like the most things about the show compared to us, right, Snowiest?
Yeah.
Right. Is there
Well, I
anything
mean-
like in particular that stood out for you?
I thought as well, because people again just like I've just watching the trailers and then making the whole judgment call. People saying that the show doesn't have a sense of humor or anything like that. I did like some of the humor, like for example, Kiryu being like, hello, I'm Michael.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that scene!
Yeah, and people being like, "Why would Kiryu do that?" And I'm like, "Bro, this is the same guy who made the shark pun in Infinite Wealth and was just giggling to himself."
Yeah.
Or like, hey, Uncle Kaz, what's up? And he goes to the sky.
Yeah. Literally think of any sub-story option or just any sub-story where he has to do something ridiculous.
No, but
Yeah.
then they're gonna say, "Oh, but Critical Path Kiryu wouldn't behave that way. Sub-stories are
Bruh.
non-canon." Yeah, but then we have the scene where he blocks Haruto's P, which is a reference to a sub-story. Don't pull that stuff.
Yeah.
True.
I think much like Froob, I would say the thing that I like the most is like the set pieces, some of like the vibe that they set, the colors. Yeah, I think they got that down better than anything else. And some of the characters, like I already said, Yumi, Miho, I think were done really well. Also, like, shout out once again to Reina. I really liked her in the show. And yeah, I think that's about it. Other than the things that I might have mentioned before as well. But yeah, I think we've been talking for a while, so might as well try and wrap this up. So, if you had to say, all of you, how would you improve the show? Let's start with Froob.
Less Mad World. More focus, honestly. Like, I feel like the jumps were a bit too detrimental at points. I quite liked episode 5 where everything was like very, very focused. Try not to save all your reveals for the last 20 minutes, lads. That'd be great. A little bit better like direction for fights in terms of like weight, but also just what's going on, because like sometimes it was a bit what is happening, especially in that like last fight between like Mishki and Kiryu. Other than that, I don't know. I don't make TV shows.
No, yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. Like, that's more than enough as an answer, to be honest. What about you, Gokudoni? Is there anything in particular like you would think could be improved, and how would they improve it?
I mean, it's a pretty simple answer, but to anyone who was involved in writing this or directing it, watch this episode of the podcast. This sounds like I'm trying to push it, but bear with me. You can tell that between the four of us, while there are some things that we generally agreed upon, we have different things that appeal to us with regards to this adaptation. And unlike a decent portion of the people, let's say on Twitter, that were condemning the mere premise of a non-one-for-one adaptation, we would like to see, products like this in the future. So maybe looking at all the things that we pointed out here will drive you in the right direction, whether we're talking pacing, fight choreography, music choices, etc. So rather than just being like, hey, what did you like, posting it on a social media platform and watching a shitstorm, look at something like this, or a well-articulated review that was done by someone who is a fan of the games, but open-minded enough to give even something that initially sounds bizarre as this a shot. That's basically it.
Yeah, that's a fair take. What about you, Snowiest?
I was just thinking about like the whole one-to-one adaptation thing. Because they were obviously, because Kiwami and the Switch came out on the same day, obviously pushing Kiwami 1 quite a lot around the time of the announcement till now. Can you imagine just being like, oh, let's get into this Yakuza series, I'll play Kiwami, and then it's just like, let's watch this show. Oh, it's the fucking same thing. I've just done this. Like, how much more of a disappointment it would have been if it was the exact same? Because at least if you play Kiwami and you watch the show, that's two different things. It's not just the retelling of what you've just watched.
Yeah.
It would be like, again, if I've just beaten Kiwami, I'm going to go watch all the cutscenes on YouTube now. Like, why?
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But in saying that, I was going to say I'm hoping that they do a season 2, because everyone's going to be like, oh, they're going to have to now do the exact story of Yakuza 2. They really don't have to. They could just make it something completely different.
They could.
They'll carry on that plotline with Kazuma.
Yeah, actually.
Whoever is alive at the end, which once again, who the fuck's alive? I feel like everyone is apart
Kazuma meets Ryuji. Ryuji has a rivalry with Saejima, who's now back, I guess.
Yeah.
No,
like I was...
sorry, go.
I was just going to say, I was saying to my brother, if they have Sayama in the second season, and it's just like a love interest thing, it'd be like, who do I really love, or something like that. That's 100% what they'd pull. However,
is alive in this.
Yes. However, if they just go, fuck that, let's not do that, I'd be like, yes, thank you. I don't like that whole like weird fling he has in Yakuza 2. Why'd they do it?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
A real man ought to be a bit stupid.
True.
Oh, they're gonna pull out. That's my suggestion for season 2. That would probably get me shot on sight. But have it so that the ambulance driver is DD and everyone returns as a zombie.
No,
Bonus
don't worry.
question.
Nishiki's going to be a barkeeper in season 2.
Let's go.
Yep.
Keep the barkeeper joke running in the show. So, bonus question. Do you think people will look back on the show in 5 years and say it was actually a masterpiece?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No. Listen, when the next Yakuza 1 interpretation comes out,
Yes.
guys, can we all agree that this show was already it was always good? Like,
They're gonna,
season 2 is going to come out. Oh, it's not as good as season 1. Here's the good things about season 1. Everyone's going to be like, yeah, I agree. Meanwhile, I'm just going to be sitting here like, awesome.
They're gonna pull, if they don't pull the whole, no, this was a misunderstood masterpiece, they're at least say, oh, come on, this had soul, this was a passion project. Sure it was.
I also think
Yeah.
it will happen purely because I've just seen this happen a lot. Like with the Yakuza 1, people hated the dub so fucking much. Like, you have no idea. Like, people were like,
God, yeah.
Right.
like what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were saying, Sega, what the fuck are you doing with this game? It's like supposed to be, like Japanese and all that. And then fast forward, like, I don't know how many years later, it's like, oh my god, this dub is actually so funny. Haha, we love it now. And then
It's because of meme culture. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Like, meme culture, funnily enough, can just flat out save something
yeah.
later down the line.
It's like we were saying before about how like Dead Souls is like pre-order pack for the 4th of July was obviously very tongue-in-cheek, which at the time you couldn't do advertising wise for like serious like game stuff. But these days, that 4th of July trailer for Dead Souls that would get it sales, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Though people would still criticize it.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
then again, there's that whole thing with, I don't doubt that there are people who genuinely really, really love this series, but are too afraid to speak out on social media just because they can't imagine what people would say in response to it. But yeah, there's definitely going to be people who are tearing it down to shreds, calling it, an abomination on earth, that will then be like, oh no, this was actually amazing. I was there since day one.
Yeah, a lot of people on the internet just can't think for themselves. That's a big problem.
Like, there usually will be just a hive mind of, like, somebody saying something, there's a lot of following to it, and, like, yeah, this dude is right.
Yeah.
See, that's the cool thing about this, because we don't really agree on any of it. You have 4 perspectives. You don't know which one to go with. So you're going to be forced to take
Yeah.
your own.
True.
So I was
Yeah, and
gonna-
the
No, go on.
I was just going to say, the good thing is that because we don't have like upvotes tied to each of the 4 of us, people aren't going to just automatically assume that, because you could have something that says that's like the sky is blue and that's got like 10 upvotes, and then the sky is red, that's got 1,000 upvotes, and everyone's going to be like, yeah, fuck, the sky's red. The sky's red now. Like,
It's like that meme again on Twitter that was like, you can post anything and have anyone get angry at you. Like, you can say, that you really like waffles and someone will make it into how you don't like pancakes. Like,
yes.
but it's like,
Yeah,
I think here I'm the most ambivalent about the show from the 4 of us. Like, I don't want to like both sides it because I like to see, the positives in like things, and I do actually quite like a lot of this show, but I wouldn't go to bat to defend it.
Oh, same,
So I
same.
still am like okay with hearing people's like opinions on why they dislike it, as long as like it's articulated. Like, just repeating the same old oh, it's bad because it's not the game. Like, articulate why. Like, have you actually seen it, or have you just like formulated that opinion of oh, he says that line in the trailer about the Dragon Dojima, therefore it's gonna be shit.
Yeah.
like I
Watch
was
it
saying at the
first.
start, if you're going to be a hater, do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Commit.
Like, at least give it an episode, because the first episode does like contextualize that line, and it does at least give you like a good view on what the show is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it after that, fair enough, you gave it a go. Like, you actually gave it a good 40 minutes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Wait, one more point to that, and I know this is gonna rile some people up, but bear with me. I've seen a lot of criticism towards the series once the first 3 episodes dropped, which, understandably, yeah, it did irk a lot of people, and I don't bemoan anyone for disliking it. Having said that, we do know that this was going to go in its own direction. So painting the entirety of the series to be awful by nature of seeing an incomplete product, to me would be the equivalent of, let's say, playing through Yakuza 5 dropping it after Sajima's part drops, and then calling it, a failure on all accounts.
Yeah.
By the end of it, you could consider that to be the greatest thing ever, the most abhorrent thing ever, but at least you know that you watched it all the way through. You don't have to, admittedly, but then if you're gonna throw out an extreme argument in a social space,
Mhm.
you can expect that there's gonna be people that will bat for any product because you haven't seen it from start to finish.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, like, going along that, and I know Develian will remember it, but like when Yakuza 5 dropped, there were so many people that were like, "Oh, I want to do rhythm game sections with Erica." Yeah, fun,
Yeah, oh,
fun
yeah,
fact from the speedrun, folks: you don't have to.
Yeah.
Dude,
Fun fact.
I still
Thanks for
see. I
teaching me
mean, I still see people say that.
I like those bits because it's literally just like it's very different. Like it's stuff that you wouldn't normally get, and it's the same with kind of the Yakuza 3, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
it's stuff you wouldn't normally get.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
There's
I
also
was
a
gonna say as
thing-
well.
Yeah, my bad. Go.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, in terms of reviewing the whole thing based on just like an incomplete project, basically, because it's the first 3 episodes. Like, legitimate question: why are people suddenly on IGN's side when they gave it a 4 out of 10 for just the
Thank
first 3
you.
episodes? Because, like, I was saying this in my stream recently. I don't care. IGN could give Lost Judgment a 58 million out of 10, and I'd still disagree with them. I don't care.
Same.
But also, the other thing is, like, a lot of people that are hating on it, they're really just hating on it because they're just like, oh, it's not faithful to the games or anything like that. Again, they're not hating it for the right reasons. Not saying, like, shot composition might not be the best, the fight scenes are dull, or anything like that. It's just, they changed this, therefore bad. And I highly fucking doubt anyone at IGN is actually like, I hate this from the perspective of a Yakuza series. They were just bored on the fucking weekend and they just went 4.
Mm,
Give
yeah.
Oras an 11. Who cares?
Yeah. Did
It's
they
equivalent
just
to when-
actually review it like the incomplete show, or did they have like an early viewing?
Maybe they had a complete viewing. Then again, I wouldn't really. And look, we are talking about a very prominent company and all that. But frankly, when it comes to institutionalized reviewers, I rarely, if ever, see instances where a worker is an established fan of the series and is then given the property. There's only so
Yes.
much that you can do with a strict schedule and not being aware of the material. But I see so many contradictions when, again, institutionalized reviewers specifically give a random ass grades to anything Yakuza related, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a game. Yeah, good
Mhm.
for you. How about another 7 out of 10? Cool.
Or
But
if you
what's the
guys
merit in
remember
that?
the infamous Alien Isolation review.
The guy that had the thing, the radar open constantly. I was wondering why he was always caught by an alien.
Wasn't
that
he
it?
like playing on hard mode and complained it was too hard?
I genuinely can't remember.
Yeah, it's like, sure, these reviewers get like 1 million games they have to review in a week and whatever, and it's like all tough and stressful for them and all that sort of stuff. But like,
Yeah.
another thing too is, again, just if you see one review that's like, this is bad, don't just be like, this is it, this is the answer.
Yeah,
Like, please,
yeah.
That's
especially
something
for IGN.
that I
Mhm.
absolutely despise about like modern day for the last like 10 odd years kind of video game stuff. An importance placed on fucking Metacritic scores.
Yes, yes.
Like, oh god. Like, and it's always been a thing with this series because this series has never really gotten giant glowing scores. Not even Zero got like above a 90, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think LAD and Infinite Wealth, especially Infinite Wealth, have been like the closest to getting that,
89
but
was
it's-
it?
Yeah, something like that. But it's like a lot of us here will all agree that the games are phenomenal in their own right. Like they have
Yep.
problems, sure,
Mhm.
but the fact that there's a lot of studios that pay out like performance based depending on what the Metacritic score is like, man, that's ass. Man,
Yeah.
that's so ass. At that point, you're just like having studios chase trends intentionally, and it's just man.
Yeah.
And full
hate that.
disclosure, you're gonna know which series or titles are gonna get a good enough review score. I'm not gonna say that anyone was paid off for it, far from it. But have you seen the grades that Andromeda got when it released?
Mm.
Do we really need to elaborate beyond this point? If something is gonna be a critical darling, it's gonna be a critical darling. That includes even God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. Mind you,
Mhm.
I adore those games, but come on, already that it's gonna have a high enough grade.
Yeah, there's just there's this weird thing where before games come out, it feels like there's already stigmas against them. Like,
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's weird.
Alright.
I was trying to think of like, I feel like there was one recently that was like a bigger named thing. I can't remember which one it was, but
I think
Yeah.
Metaphor had a lot of like talk before it came out. If I
yeah, I
remember
mean
right.
in like a negative way, like something Something
Oh.
is said beforehand, and then
Well, I mean, there's like Dragon Age recently. A bunch of people are just
Oh.
mad because it's work in quotation marks.
Oh,
And they're
yeah.
automatically just like, yep, game's terrible. There's a woman in it or something. Fuck it, just delete the game.
Unfortunately, the internet will just be the internet. Like, there's just no going around it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Blue Sky has been a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh really? I should use it. I know I made an account and it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is for when the the certain unrelated bird icon site goes poof.
that's
And I
today.
do
They're
use it.
updating the block stuff today.
I did
Oh,
consider
oh.
making an account as well. I just didn't do it yet.
Do it now before
sucks.
someone.
It sucks for
Do
us
it after this
because-
recording before someone takes it because they hear this.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, they will. They absolutely will. Because like
True,
it sucks
true.
for us being content creators. Because like like a lot of our audience is on like platforms like that, so we have to use it.
Man, we really went into a downer. We were all like, yeah, the series is hated, but it's all right. And then we started talking about freaking reviews, and it's like,
Long story short, if you like something, you're allowed to like it. If you don't like it, you're allowed to dislike it. Just
Yes.
because we don't like the same things as you doesn't mean it should affect your opinion. Like whatever you like.
Yeah, just
Damn. Yes.
be respectful about it.
end
Yeah.
scene.
But yeah, I think, everybody can have a discussion about the show without just, jumping into personal attacks. And like we said before, like multiple times throughout this whole thing, all of us here might have our problems with the show, some of us more than others. But that, that doesn't mean you can't really talk it out. Again, like rational people. It is very possible. Just because you like a few things about the show doesn't mean you absolutely adore it and you think it's the best thing since, I don't know. Just talk about the show. That's really all there is to it. It's nothing more, nothing less. You're not, I don't know, like you're not
Have a
implying.
discussion, not a fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think we said everything that we have to say about the show. And to end things on a positive note, I'm out of ideas.
Reading comments.
So the last one was Dead Souls themed, so we're gonna have like Dead Souls themed comments.
Which I have like played now because it didn't crash on me when I was streaming it the other day.
Oh yeah,
Really?
congrats! I saw that
I
stream.
got up to like halfway through Ryuji's part.
Man, you're so lucky.
Yeah. Let me guess. You were going down Pink Street and you crashed.
I didn't crash. I got a headache from playing, so I had to stop.
I got 28 crashes, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Oh, that speed run, the one where you sped the whole game up. That was beautiful.
Do you like it?
Genuinely, I told you, do speed runs for any PS3 Yakuza game, especially 5. I want to see that. I want to see the 1 versus 100 fight on
somebody-
700.
Somebody in chat did just say, like, yeah, play Yakuza 5 like this. So, for those who missed it, last time I played Dead Souls for Halloween, I basically had the game like 5 times the speed, and holy shit, it was chaotic.
Extreme hard mode, Dead Souls difficulty.
Ooh,
I'm not touching
ooh.
extreme hard on Dead Souls, man.
Try hitting 1 QTE.
Like, if you want to be sick, if you want to get sick, just watch the turret section 5 times the speed. I had to turn the speed
God.
down. It was so unbearable.
Oh god, yep.
Okay, let's find some comments from the last podcast episode. X7J10 says, upon watching this video, I decided to play Dead Souls for a little bit. The game crashed within 2 minutes and now I'm back to watching this video.
Yep, that's the Dead Souls experience.
Yeah, sounds about right.
The thing that weirds me out is like anytime you or me get crashes in Dead Souls, like we'll always get the comment of, "Oh, but it never crashed for me." Like, oh, I don't know, it's a good game, you guys, because like never ever crashes. No, it never crashes for you.
Yeah,
Like the amount of times we've had that game crash is wild.
yeah, a little too many crashes.
Mm.
All right, this next comment comes from James. James says, oh man, I have 20 minutes left of this video. Really excited for the Like a Dragon episode 4 to 6. Watch the first 3 episodes, 1 per night. Doing the same with these episodes too, I assume the podcast. Hopefully you guys and Snowiest review the whole TV show. Well,
I'm here
James,
for you, James.
well, hello from the future. Hope you like this episode, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you for watching all this stuff. We really do appreciate it. Last comment. Am I gonna struggle like last time?
I was gonna say it's time for the curse of the third comment. But that's probably my favorite segment of the entire last episode. I remember replaying that.
No. So, Extreme Ninja says, the greatest crime of Yakuza Dead Souls is having a game all about shooting, but not having Daigo be playable.
Finally, someone
Yup.
says it.
Yeah, no disagreements there. Thank you, Extreme Ninja, for the comment. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for watching all of these podcast episodes. And yeah, that is going to be the comment reading for the day. Once again, like, if you want your comment to be featured next episode, always feel free to leave a comment below. It really does mean the world. And also, let's have a symbol for this episode. We haven't done that in a while.
Ooh.
Now, what is this symbol going to be? Any suggestions?
I was gonna say, because you said symbol, I was gonna say pentagram, but that's gonna bring in the wrong kind of people.
Yeah.
The eye of Dojima, I don't know.
The nose. Dojima knows Ryu. There you go.
Nose. There we go. Let's go with the nose. That is a very good pick. So, if you want to tell us that you watched all of this, then please go ahead and show us the nose in the comments. That would be very much appreciated. But yeah, this is going to be everything for this episode. This is like 3 hours and a half now, so that's a long time, and you guys should be eating well. And I just want to say, all of the viewers, thank you as usual for tuning in. We really do appreciate that you just, listen to us ramble. And yeah, if you guys want to check out the channels of the guys here as well, I'm going to leave the links in the description. Gokudoni makes amazing essay videos. Froob makes speedruns and, just kind of stream content. So if you like that kind of content, please check him out. And Snowiest also makes analysis and comparison and that kind of videos for Yakuza, and he's funny as hell. So please check out his videos. Now, with all that said, I just want to thank the guys here as well. Thank you for showing up for this. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time, whenever that is. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye bye.